Chapter 32. Let's go through the back door. Kicking open the bloody back door, Lin Muyu grabbed Shu Yao and flew out, only to see that the city streets were filled with armored cavalry. City Lord Hua Tian moved really fast. The city was most likely surrounded by soldiers already. If they didn't take advantage of the chaos to escape, Silver Fir City would definitely become his and Shu Yao's grave. They chose to go through alleyways and quickly weaved through the chaotic crowd. However, when they arrived at the city gate, they discovered that a group of guards was closing the city gate. However, an ox cart was halfway through the gate when its wheels collapsed, and the cart was filled with heavy sacks of grain. This was a great help, but it was a pity that the city walls were filled with soldiers, many of them holding longbows in their hands with arrows already nocked. "We can't leave," Chu Yao said through clenched teeth. "No, we have to go." Lin Muyu grabbed Chu Yao's hand tightly and said, "Come with me. Don't hesitate or retreat." The two of them rushed out at high speed. The guards didn't even have time to react before Lin Muyu and Chu Yao flashed past like lightning and rushed out the moment the gates were about to close. Those two are the felons of the Empire, Lin Muyu and Chu Yao. Kill them immediately. A familiar angry roar came from the city walls. It was City Lord Hua Tian. Hua Wan was standing next to his father with a cold smile on his face. The bows on the city walls shot out arrows one after another. Lin Muyu shouted as she ran. The green gourd emerged from her body and formed a 2-meter-tall mystic tortoise shell behind her. Peng, 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 the mystic tortoise shell deflected the arrows. The defense of the mystic tortoise shell was indeed unparalleled. "Traitor, you still want to leave?" Hua Wan suddenly pulled out his longsword and jumped off the city wall. He landed on a warhorse and pointed his sword forward. He shouted, "Iron Cavalry Camp, follow me and kill Lin Muyu." Hua Tian shouted from the city walls, "Wan, stop. You don't need to do it yourself if you want to keep them here. Men, bring that lowly servant to me." 2 cavalrymen dragged a woman up the city wall. It was Xiang Xiang. At this time, Xiang Xiang's face was covered in bruises, and there were even whip marks on her chest and arms. She was covered in blood. Infuriated, Lin Muyu pointed at Hua Tian, who was standing on the city wall, and bellowed, "Hua Tian, you son of a bitch. If you have a problem, come at me. Why are you torturing a maidservant like this?" Hua Tian smiled faintly and said, "Lin Muyu, I know that Xiang Xiang has given her body to you. She's your woman. If you're a man, you'd better surrender. Otherwise, this 20-meter-tall city wall will be the place where she dies." Lin Muyu held Chu Yao's hand tightly. It was impossible for him to give up Chu Yao to save Xiangxiang. Looking at the hesitant Lin Muyu below the city walls, Xiangxiang's tears rolled down her cheeks. Her body trembled slightly as she cried, "Young master, you still don't believe me even now, right? You still don't believe that Xiangxiang is willing to do anything for you, right?" Lin Muyu clenched her teeth and said, "Xiangxiang." Xiangxiang laughed, but it was a very sad laugh. "Young master, Xiangxiang's body is not clean anymore. I'm not good enough for you. But just like you said, Xiangxiang should choose her own life." Hua Tian said angrily, "You bitch, what nonsense are you talking about? You're a maidservant of the city lord's mansion. When did you get to choose your life? Men, tear off her clothes. I'd like to see how she chooses her own fate." A guard stepped forward and grabbed Xiang Xiang. Rip. The clothes on her upper body were torn to shreds. Xiangxiang remained silent. When her clothes were completely torn to shreds and she was completely naked, she slowly lowered her body and picked up the pieces of cloth to cover her breasts. Although her movements were slow, those pieces of cloth seemed to be her last shred of dignity. She would rather give up everything than give up her dignity. "I was born free." Xiangxiang looked at Hua Tian. There was no longer any fear in her eyes, and her voice was full of calmness. She slowly approached the city walls and suddenly smiled. In an extremely gentle voice, she said to Lin Muyu, young master once said that dignity is worth fighting for at the cost of one's life. Young master, if you don't believe me, then I will prove it to you. Hua Tian's cold eyes fell on her. He knew that this kind of woman was afraid of death. In order to live, she could sell her body. She had given her virginity to him in order to survive, which proved everything. However, under Hua Tian's gaze, this weak woman jumped up like a meteor and shattered into pieces. Her young life was gone in the blink of an eye. Looking at Xiangxiang lying in a pool of blood under the city walls, Hua Tian was shocked. Soon, his shame turned into anger. He shouted in a low voice, "Men, drag this woman's body back and feed it to the dogs." Outside the city walls, Hua Wan had already charged over with his long sword in hand. Lin Muyu stared at Xiangxiang's body from afar. He suddenly froze in place, feeling as if his heart had been pierced by 1,000 arrows. He slowly turned around and said to Chu Yao, "Sister Chu Yao, run into the 7 Stars forest quickly. I'll catch up to you in a moment. You'll only be a burden if you stay here." Chu Yao knew that he was speaking the truth. Her strength was far, far inferior to his. "Amen. Come here quickly." Drops of rain fell from the sky. She ran madly through the rain towards the 7 Stars forest. She didn't know if it was because of the rain or her tears. She knew that Lin Muyu wanted to take revenge for Xiangxiang, but she couldn't stop him. She could only pray for him from the bottom of her heart. The charging power of a cavalry was terrifying, especially the armored cavalrymen of the prefectural army. Their charging power was even more frightening. Lin Muyu didn't move an inch. When Hua Wan's warhorse was only 10 meters away from him, he abruptly raised his fist and exploded in the air. Hua Wan's warhorse was immediately frightened and knelt to the ground with a long neigh, throwing the young city lord off his horse. Hua Wan's skills were also extraordinary. When he fell off his horse, he stepped into the air and exerted strength. His long sword carried the full power of his thunder all-martial soul, and he swung it at Lin Muyu. Whoosh! Stepping on the rain-soaked grass, Lin Muyu immediately activated the falling star steps. Hua Wan's attack also landed heavily on the ground. His attack was far too clumsy compared to Lin Muyu's. Both of them were at the first level of the Earth realm, but the true difference in strength was astonishing. Bang! Lin Muyu's elbow struck the back of his opponent. His long sword flashed like lightning, shattering the opponent's energy shield and tearing a bloody wound in Hua Wan's abdomen. "Ah!" Hua Wan roared and swung his sword in a circle. However, he did not manage to hit Lin Muyu. He panted heavily as rainwater flowed down his cheeks. Just as he was about to move, he felt a cold blade on his neck from behind. "Kneel." Lin Muyu's icy voice sounded. Hua Wan couldn't help but kneel on the ground when he felt a heavy blow on the back of his knee. He looked up at his father on the city wall, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Father," Hua Tian's head exploded. He never thought that his son would be so weak. "Let go of the young lord, and I'll spare your life." Hua Tian roared and rushed down the city wall. He was a level 47 battle venerable. Holding a long spear in his hand, he roared angrily, "Lin Muyu, you're just a lowly commoner. If you kill a noble, your whole family will be implicated. Let go of my son, and I'll let bygones be bygones. I'll let you and Chu Yao go." The rain was getting heavier and heavier. Lin Muyu's eyelashes were already covered with rainwater, but her eyes were filled with coldness. She suddenly laughed and said, "Let us go. Hua Tian, you'll die here today. Do you know that?" Hua Tian roared, "Who do you think you are? You want to kill me? You're too arrogant, you little bastard." Lin Muyu gently pulled the long sword, and with a crack, the main artery in Hua Wan's neck was cut. Blood spurted out, and Hua Wan immediately knelt on the ground. He covered the wound with his hands, but it was impossible. Blood mixed with rainwater and splashed everywhere. Hua Wan's life was rapidly drained, and in the blink of an eye, he became a corpse lying on the ground. Ah! Hua Tian seemed to have turned into a wild beast. His whole body was covered with lightning bolts, and he pounced on Lin Muyu. Arrogant little bastard, I'm going to kill you. Arrogant. Lin Muyu was arrogant, but he was not reckless. Judging from Hua Tian's momentum, he knew that he couldn't fight him head-on. He spun his feet and took a few steps back. He waved his long sword and activated the wind symbol formula of the wind-riding sword art. His body was wrapped in an invisible gust of wind as he dashed towards his opponent and launched a lightning strike. However, Hua Tian's speed was not inferior to Lin Muyu's. With a flick of his long spear, he actually parried the thunder strike with a loud clang. Hua Tian leaped into the air and kicked the thunder hammer out of his foot, hitting Lin Muyu's black tortoise shell with a loud bang. Seeing this, Hua Tian let out a cold harumph and thrust his long spear forward like a poisonous snake. With a puff sound, a flower of blood blossomed on Lin Muyu's shoulder. With one sword strike and one kick, Lin Muyu was sent rolling in the mud. This defeat was too quick and too miserable. Break! Hua Tian suddenly stomped on the ground. Immediately, an invisible force broke the ground and twisted the furious thunder. Lin Muyu didn't dare to take it head-on. He hastily moved sideways and tried to grab it. However, he was still burned by the thunder, and his wounds were bleeding profusely. After gaining the upper hand, Hua Tian attacked again and again. In less than a few minutes, at least 7 or 8 wounds had appeared on Lin Muyu's body. Swoosh! A green vine broke out of the ground and directly wrapped around Hua Tian's right leg. The thorns on the green vine were so sharp that they directly pierced through his skin. What's that? Hua Tian disdainfully chopped off the green vine, but he didn't know that his true qi was rapidly flowing out of his wound. Lin Muyu only defended and didn't attack. She used the green rock armor and the black tortoise shell to defend against Hua Tian's continuous attacks. Hua Tian had the upper hand. Hundreds of cavalrymen around him didn't make a move. They were all waiting for the city lord to personally kill the fugitive to avenge his son. Finally, after a long time, Hua Tian's aura became chaotic. Although Lin Muyu was covered in wounds, she still held on with her strong willpower. She swung her left fist horizontally and launched a demon noise punch. It was time to counterattack. Bang! The demon noise punch landed on Hua Tian's chest, but it only hit the qi shield. Since Hua Tian's true qi was far stronger than his son's, the demon noise punch naturally wouldn't penetrate his internal organs so easily. It's just a small trick. It's not worth mentioning. While Hua Tian was cursing, Lin Muyu suddenly stretched out her hand behind her. In the next moment, 4 flying daggers merged into a 4-edged flying wheel and swept out. The demon noise saber had launched a surprise attack. Clang! Hua Tian abruptly swept away the demon noise saber with the tip of his spear and cursed, "Hidden weapon. You despicable little bastard, do you think you can defeat me with hidden weapons?" Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She raised her sword and launched a lightning strike. Then, she raised her left hand and launched 2 demon noise punches. Bang! Bang! Hua Tian's qi and blood surged under the continuous attacks. However, he was still as powerful as before. He launched a lightning cone attack and sent Lin Muyu flying back dozens of meters while vomiting blood. Holding the long spear in his hand, Hua Tian sneered and said, "Who do you think you are to fight me? I'm going to cut you into a million pieces for killing my son." At this moment, the corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up into a smile. What? Hua Tian cursed inwardly. Suddenly, a whistling sound came from behind his head. Before he could react, the demon noise saber swept across the air with a loud crack. Lin Muyu leaped up and caught the flying dagger, disassembled it, and put it into the luggage bag tied around her waist. Hua Tian stood there in silence. The group of guards were also dumbfounded. In their eyes, the city lord's head finally slid down slowly. Chapter 33. Wild Goose Formation. In a cavalry battle, the wild goose formation was the most suitable method to deal with a small number of enemies. Once trapped in the wild goose formation, even a god wouldn't be able to escape. Lin Muyu strode forward and flipped open Hua Tian's clothes. Sure enough, there was an ancient book hidden inside. It was the Divine Alchemy Codex. It was stained with blood, but she couldn't tell if it belonged to Hua Tian or someone from the same sect. She quickly stuffed the Divine Alchemy Codex into her clothes, grabbed Hua Tian's spear, and took a few steps back. Hit! With a furious roar, the spear flew out like an arrow and pierced through the chest of one of the cavalrymen at the front. The cavalryman and his horse fell to the ground and rolled on the ground, leaving a trail of mud behind them. However, at that moment, the two cavalrymen on the flanks began to close their formation. Two cavalrymen, one on the left and one on the right, raised their sabers and slashed at Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu could only see the ferocious expressions on the two cavalrymen's faces. With the speed of the long sabers, the force behind the charge of the cavalryman was obviously not weak. In the nick of time, Lin Muyu raised her arm and summoned her martial soul, the black tortoise shell. Bang! The huge impact wreaked havoc in her arms, sending Lin Muyu flying with her sword into the mud. Her arms were numb, but the two cavalrymen were not much better off. They were knocked off their horses by the mystic tortoise shell and were trampled to death by the cavalrymen behind them. Their screams were heart-wrenching. Just as Lin Muyu got up, she felt a burning pain in her shoulder. One of the cavalrymen had pierced her arm with a spear. She swung her sword horizontally, but the handle of the spear was made of wood. Crack! Lin Muyu let out a low roar and released her martial soul again. With a swoosh, several gourd vines burst out of the ground and wrapped around the cavalryman. Taking advantage of the situation, Lin Muyu punched the cavalryman with her left fist. The demonic sound fist shattered the cavalryman's internal organs. Pa, stepping on the mud, Lin Muyu's arm was already completely red. The rainwater had seeped into his wound, causing a burning pain. Lin Muyu quickly retreated a few steps with his steel sword in hand. He increased the speed of his falling star steps. He had to leave, otherwise, he would definitely die under the charge of this group of cavalrymen. Forget about him being a war master who had just broken through LV-30, even if he was a LV-90 sacred domain expert, he might not be able to fight against hundreds of iron cavalry head-on. After all, there was a limit to one's strength, and the destructive power of the cavalry's charge was endless. Fortunately, the fallen star steps were fast, and after a few leaps, he had already left the attack range of the charging formation. Don't let him escape. Catch him and kill him. Avenge the city lord and the young city lord. A group of armored horsemen roared. Lin Muyu ran like a madman. Blood was flowing out of his wounds, making him somewhat weak. He wanted to retrieve Xiang's body. He didn't want to let Xiang's body suffer any more humiliation, but it was already too late. As long as he turned back, he would definitely die. Pfft! His back suddenly trembled, and he felt a burning pain. The arrow from the cavalry archer had pierced through his green rock armor's innate chi, entering about a few centimeters into his flesh. Although it wasn't heavy, it was like adding insult to injury. I can't stop, I have to continue running. Sister Chu Yao is still waiting for me. The rain blurred his vision, but he still did not stop. He jumped into the bushes. The thorns on his body were extremely painful, but when he thought of Xiang's tragic death, he felt as if 10,000 arrows had pierced through his heart, so this little bit of pain was nothing. I killed her. He secretly blamed himself. He shouldn't have said to Xiang that dignity is worth fighting for with one's life. He couldn't save her, and instead caused her to die. What did he count as? His physical strength continued to deplete, and the self-blame in his heart pushed him closer and closer to his limit. However, every time he was about to fall, he would think of Chu Yao. If he died, what would Chu Yao do? How would she face everything that would happen in the future? Therefore, he couldn't fall. Perhaps it was this belief that saved him. After running madly for almost 20 minutes, his body was covered in wounds. When he looked back, he discovered that the pursuit had stopped. This was a mountain road that was at least several kilometers long, and it was not suitable for cavalry at all. If the cavalry of the Kathaya prefectural army dismounted and gave chase, their walking speed would obviously be far slower than Lin Muyu's fallen star steps. You! Chu Yao's voice rang in his blurry vision. Lin Muyu's knees buckled and he fell to the ground. He immediately fell into Chu Yao's arms and leaned against her shoulder. A familiar fragrance entered his nose, and he couldn't help but blame himself. I'm sorry. Sister Chu Yao, it's all my fault. It's this god of medicine tome that caused Grandpa's tragic death. It's all my fault. Your wounds are too heavy, don't speak. Chu Yao looked at the spear wound on his arm and the arrow in his back. Her tears fell together with the rainwater. At night, the crackling firewood lit up the small cave. This was a wild bear's cave, but the owner was already lying in a pool of blood at the side. In order to kill this wild bear, Chu Yao had added a new wound on her shoulder, but it clearly wasn't as heavy as the person lying on the hay. Lin Muyu slowly woke up, and the first thing he saw was Chu Yao's side profile. He looked up and saw that the wound on his arm had been bandaged. He could feel a faint pain on his back, but it clearly wasn't as painful as before. You're awake? Chu Yao turned to look at him with a warm smile on her face. Then, she fiddled with the pot on the bonfire. Rather than saying it was a pot, it was better to say that it was chiseled out of a stone. In order to make this pot, Chu Yao had used a pair of daggers to chisel away a pile of stones. The pot was boiling soup, and the material was wild bear meat. In order to help Lin Muyu recover quickly, Chu Yao had dug out the bear's heart and boiled it into soup. You must be hungry. Wait a moment, the meat soup will be ready soon. Chu Yao said softly, like a caring sister. Lin Muyu saw the wound on Chu Yao's shoulder at a glance. I'm sorry, fool, why are you saying sorry? It's nothing, thank you. There's no need to be so polite with senior sister. Chu Yao smiled, but the smile on her face gradually disappeared. She pursed her lips and said, it's all because I'm too useless. I couldn't help you at all, and instead became you's burden. Grandpa and my fellow disciples are all dead, and even that Xiang Xiang is dead. Lin Muyu struggled to sit up and held her shoulder. She smiled, Sister Chu Yao, don't blame yourself. I've already avenged them. Ah. Chu Yao was stunned. Lin Muyu looked at the dancing flames and smiled slightly. I've killed Hua Wan and Hua Tian. They were the main culprits, so I've avenged Grandpa and my fellow disciples. Chu Yao looked at him in disbelief. You're not joking with senior sister, are you? Hua Tian is, he's an expert close to the battle sage realm, the strongest person in Silver Fir City. How could you have possibly killed him? Because of them. Lin Muyu caressed the 4 flying daggers beside her. The demon noise daggers are Teacher Chu Chu's ultimate technique. Without them, I'm afraid I would have died to Hua Tian's spear already. Chu Yao sighed quietly. Yes, it's good that we were able to take revenge, but I'm afraid we'll have to roam the world in the future. Hua Tian is the city lord of Silver Fir City. Although the city isn't big, Hua Tian is a true minister of the empire. Now that he's dead, the empire will definitely send many troops to hunt us down. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Lin Muyu smiled stubbornly, but it touched her wounds and she couldn't help but groan. Chu Yao couldn't help but smile. You're just too stubborn. Lie down and rest well. I'll take care of you until your wounds are completely healed. After lying down, Lin Muyu silently adjusted her true energy and cleared the blocked meridians caused by her wounds. Otherwise, she would definitely be crippled. This took quite a while, but not long after, Chu Yao had already filled a stone bowl with steaming meat soup and placed it in front of him. Although he didn't know what time it had been a long time since he'd eaten, and he was indeed hungry. He immediately swallowed the soup in big mouthfuls, causing Chu Yao to giggle. Slow down, don't burn yourself. After eating, Lin Muyu continued to adjust her breathing and heal her wounds. She knew that countless dangers were rapidly approaching, and she had to recover her combat strength as soon as possible. Otherwise, Chuyao definitely wouldn't be able to deal with them by herself. Big sis Chuyao, what do you plan to do next? Let's survive first. Chuyao said quietly, I've seen the map of Kathaya City and its surroundings. We'll travel along the edge of the Seven Stars Forest and avoid our pursuers. If we head north, we'll reach the imperial capital Lanyan City in about half a month's time. We'll see what we can do when we get there. My brother Chu Huayin has been away from home for many years, and I heard that he once appeared in Lanyan City. In any case, let's survive first. When Chuyao mentioned Lanyan City, Lin Muyu couldn't help but think of a beautiful figure. Tang Xiaoxi should be in Lanyan City, right? Perhaps I should go look for her. No, that doesn't seem appropriate. I've killed an important official of the empire. If Tang Xiaoxi covers up for me, I'll definitely get into trouble. Moreover, given our friendship, it doesn't seem likely that she'll help me, does it? That night, Lin Muyu had been recuperating non-stop. At the same time, he used first-grade healing medicine to treat his wounds. The arrow wound on his back soon started to feel numb and itchy, and it was starting to form scabs. The injury on his arm was slightly more serious, and he still needed some time to recuperate completely. However, this did not affect his continuous improvement in strength. At dawn. Five Valleys City, the governor's manor of Tsangnan Province. The governor of the province, Hu Tianning, sat under a lantern with a solemn expression on his face. He slowly unfurled the letter and couldn't help but frown. He said indifferently, Silver Fir City's enforcer Hua Tian was killed by a nameless junior called Lin Muyu? How could something like this happen? The general on guard at the side cupped his fists and said, My lord, this is an emergency. What should we do? A murderous glint flashed through Hu Tianning's eyes. Silver Fir City is a subordinate city of Tsangnan Province. I've been the governor of this province for more than 11 years and such a major incident has never happened. This matter must be resolved with lightning speed. The assassination of an important official of the empire is an unpardonable crime. Immediately pass down the order and have Commander Wang of the cavalry lead 3,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount camp to Silver Fir City. We must capture Lin Muyu, alive or dead. Yes, my lord. The general narrowed his eyes and said, It is said that Lin Muyu has fled into the Seven-Star Forest. Our army may not be able to arrive in time. Should we send a letter to Silver Fir City and offer a bounty for wandering mercenaries to help us take care of these two felons, Lin Muyu and Chuyao? Hu Tianning's voice was very soft. Do as I say. Offer a bounty of 100,000 Jin coins for Lin Muyu's head. Yes. Chapter 34. The heavy rain continued for 3 days and 3 nights before it finally cleared up. Deep in the mountains of the Seven Stars Forest, a man and a woman slowly walked forward. It was Lin Muyu and Chuyao. Lin Muyu's injuries had basically healed, but she couldn't use too much strength or else her wounds would burst open. She carried a slightly large bag on her back and laughed as she walked, It's so heavy. Sister Chuyao, what did you buy? Chuyao stuck out her tongue and laughed, I can only go to the nearby villages to buy supplies when it's dark, so I didn't buy anything good. A pot, 2 bowls, some oil and salt, and a simple tent. It's not big, and I also bought you a cloak. It's almost autumn, and the nights in the Seven Stars Forest will be very cold. Lin Muyu nodded and said, This is enough. Did you see the bounty notice for us? Yes. Chuyao nodded heavily and laughed, 100,000 gold coins. I didn't think that our lives would be so valuable. I heard that many hunters are thinking of hunting us. Fortunately, the portraits on the notice don't look like them, and I have short hair now, otherwise I would definitely be recognized. Oh right, I also heard from the hunters that many wandering mercenaries have entered the Seven Stars Forest to hunt us down. Even the legendary 7 martial saints have agreed to join the hunt. This time, whether or not we can reach the capital is a problem. 7 martial saints? What are they? They are the best of the wandering mercenaries. The 7 martial saints are the names given to them by the mercenaries. These 7 are all experts in the 7 stars forest, and even the weakest one is much stronger than Hawkeye. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu silently clenched her fist and smiled. If they really dare to kill us for money, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Chiao had experienced so much and was already used to a life of killing. She nodded and said, N. When it was close to noon, the 2 of them had climbed over 3 mountains. It seemed that they were getting closer and closer to the depths of the 7 stars forest. This was not a good thing. If they went too deep, they would easily encounter spirit beasts that were thousands of years old. That was not something that Lin Muyu could handle. Along the way, Lin Muyu kept plucking leaves from the forest and sniffing them. Then, she frowned and said nothing. You, what are you looking for? Chu Yao couldn't help but ask. A fire fox. A 600-year-old fire fox is following us. Huh? Chu Yao gaped in shock. Lin Muyu explained with a smile, the leaves I plucked belong to a type of tree called palm tree. This is the favorite food of the fire fox. The older the palm tree, the more the fire fox likes it. Furthermore, the closer the fire fox gets, the more the palm tree's leaves emit a refreshing fragrance. Logically speaking, this fire fox should be less than a kilometer away from us. No wonder there's a fragrance around us. Yes, we've probably entered the fire fox's territory, so it wants to hunt us down. Perfect timing, we'll hunt it down instead. The beast spirit of a fire fox is quite compatible with your purple marten martial soul. If you refine its beast spirit, Sister Chu Yao's cultivation will soar. But... Chu Yao blinked. The masters of Silver Fir City's Sacred Hall once said that we can't absorb beast spirits too frequently, or our martial soul and body won't be able to handle it. Don't worry, Lin Muyu smiled, trust me, Sister Chu Yao, there's still a lot of room for improvement. Alright then. At noon, they had lunch under a boulder. Their food consisted of 2 pieces of roast beef and some water from a gourd. However, this was already a pretty good life for Lin Muyu and Chu Yao. They'd traveled through the torrential rain a few days ago, and they'd only had 1 meal a day, and it was an extremely dry and cold steamed bun at that. Lin Muyu's gaze fell in another direction as she chewed on the beef. Sister Chu Yao, be careful. That fire fox has appeared. It can attack us at any time, and it'll definitely be a sneak attack. Chu Yao nodded lightly, a silver needle appearing in her hand. The silver needles she threw were quite lethal within 20 meters, but any further and they wouldn't have enough power. Kiki, all of a sudden, a ball of fire appeared in the distance. It was a fox wrapped in flames. The 600-year-old fire fox let out a loud cry from the underbrush. It stirred up the raging flames, and with a hua sound, a large ball of raging flames shot out. Lin Muyu's eyes and hands were quick. She leaped down from the boulder, and her green gourd martial soul emerged from her body. With a wang sound, the black tortoise shell was successfully activated, and the flames that the fire fox shot out were completely dissolved. At the same time, she raised her hand and threw the demonic noise blade towards the fire fox's head. After all, this little guy had cultivated for several hundred years, and had already gained intelligence. It very cleverly scuttled into the underbrush to avoid the demonic noise blade's attack. However, this move was already within Lin Muyu's expectations. Suddenly, there was a hua sound, and many green vines filled with thorns extended from the ground. This was the effect of the thorns, the entanglement skill. In the blink of an eye, the fire fox was tightly bound. Kiki, its cries grew louder, and the flames continued to burn the gourd vines. Chu Yao hastily said, "You, be careful of its flame attack." "It won't." Lin Muyu punched through the air, and with a peng sound, the air surged. The spinning demonic noise blade quickly changed direction, and cut through the fire fox's back. Immediately, blood splattered, and the fire fox howled miserably. "Shoot its eyes with the silver needles," Lin Muyu shouted. Chu Yao hastily raised her hand, and the silver needles flew out. In the next moment, the fire fox cried out miserably, and Lin Muyu leaped over with her steel sword in hand. She raised her speed to the limit with the falling star steps, and lightning flickered on the blade of her sword. With a kacha sound, the fire fox's head was immediately sent flying. At the same time, a wave of raging flames spread out in the surroundings. Hong! Fortunately, she had activated the black tortoise shell in time. Otherwise, she would have definitely been burned. Lin Muyu stood at the same place, and looked at the surrounding grassland that had been burnt black. She couldn't help but be speechless. As expected, a 600-year-old wild beast couldn't be underestimated. Otherwise, she would have fallen into its hands. Sister Chu Yao, hurry up and refine the wild beast's soul. Chu Yao quickly sat down beside the fire fox's corpse, and released her martial soul, the sable. The sable quickly and greedily absorbed the fire fox's spiritual energy, and Lin Muyu acted as if she was protecting it from the side. In fact, her true intention was to summon the female elf official, Lulu, and then summon the treasured cultivation cauldron to assist Chu Yao in absorbing the spiritual energy. With Chu Yao's cultivation, it was impossible for her to completely absorb the fire fox's spiritual energy. However, the treasured cultivation cauldron was like a huge vessel, and it first helped her refine the spiritual energy, and left the essence for her. At the same time, it protected Chu Yao's martial soul from being devoured by the wild beast's soul. Chu Yao, who was in the middle of cultivating, trembled slightly. This was a huge challenge for her. Moreover, she could feel a tyrannical power helping her, and she could guess who it was. Lin Muyu closed her eyes, and controlled her own power to search the fire fox's wild beast's soul. Suddenly, a scorching power began to wreak havoc. That's it. Using the power of her EC, she quickly grabbed onto this power. This was the fire fox's soul essence, and it wanted to escape from the treasured cultivation cauldron's shackles. It was simply a dream. Lin Muyu's refining power was like a huge hand that firmly grabbed onto the fire fox's soul essence, and then provided this precious soul essence to Chu Yao, so that she could slowly refine it. About 2 hours of cultivation finally came to an end. The moment Chu Yao opened her eyes, she was already wild with joy. I've successfully refined the fire fox's beast soul. Heavens, the sable actually comprehended another skill, flame impact. Lin Muyu secretly laughed. It seemed like Tang Xiaoxi's fire fox martial soul also knew this skill. Congratulations, big sister Chu Yao. What level of strength have you reached now? Chu Yao opened her palm, allowing the innate chi to flow, and said, I'm at least at the strength of a level 27 war spirit. Maybe I'll be able to step into the first level of the earth realm soon. All right. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. You still need to practice the needle throwing technique more. It's best if you can accurately shoot and kill targets within 50 meters. This way we'll be able to fight more smoothly. Let's go, we can't stay here for too long. As for Lin Muyu himself, because he lacked a measuring instrument, he did not know what level of war master he was now. However, in these 3 days, he had killed a few spirit beasts and absorbed a lot of beast spirits. His strength had increased by a lot, so he should at least be above level 36, right? Furthermore, it was extremely beneficial to the improvement of his strength. The two of them walked slowly in the mountains, not knowing that danger was approaching from afar. 2 hours later, in the depths of the Seven Stars Forest. In the desolate woodland, a martial warrior in his 40s walked over with a long blade in his hand. His face was full of beard, and his eyes shone brightly. His gaze landed on a pile of ashes not far away, and he quickly ran over. Looking at the corpse of the fire fox on the ground, he lowered his body and sniffed it. A smile appeared on his face. It's been less than 6 hours since its death. Looking at this wound, it looks like a sword wound. Lin Muyu, Guanyang, have finally found you. With that, he shot into the distance, the long blade in his hand whistling. Imperial Capital, Rain Listening Tower. This was a pavilion located between the Green Mountains and the lake. It was also the most elegant place in the entire Imperial Capital, but it was definitely not a place that ordinary people could come to. Those who were qualified to come here were either rich or noble. On top of the pavilion stood a beautiful young lady dressed in a fiery red dress. She looked at the clear water in the pond quietly. Suddenly, she waved her red sleeves and frowned slightly. Still no news of Lin Muyu? A man dressed in a general's armor knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, "Not yet, Princess Shi. It is said that the 7 martial saints of the wandering mercenaries have already been dispatched to hunt down that lad called Lin Muyu." Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips. "How many cavalrymen did grandfather send to protect me this time?" 800, Princess. Send all of them out to search for Lin Muyu, even if they have to search through the entire 7 Stars forest. But, in that case, there will be no one left to protect the princess. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly punched down, and her Firefox martial soul surged, smashing a section of the railing into pieces. Her pretty face was filled with anger. "Send all of them out. Do you want me to repeat myself? Do you want me to ask Her Highness Een to give you an order personally before you are willing to go?" "Yes, Princess, I will go immediately." Tang Xiaoxi stood alone on the long corridor, looking into the distance towards the south. Suddenly, her body trembled slightly and she said, "Chu, how good would it be if you were here? Do you know that the disciple you are most proud of is in trouble?" Chapter 35. Craggy boulders crisscrossed the mountain range. Bold and vigorous pines stood proudly on the loose soil between the boulders, causing this endless mountain range to look like a winding dragon entrenched in the 7 Stars forest. Due to the heavy rain that had just fallen, the withered trees had already sprouted purplish-red fungus, emitting a strange fragrance. Beneath the boulders, 2 wandering mercenaries in tattered armor carried a sword and a blade as they walked with all their might. They were called Wang Bao and Lu Shun, wandering mercenaries at the border of Kathia City. They often accepted missions to kill in the taverns, and even when business was slow, they would often kill and rob. These were wandering mercenaries, a bunch of madmen who were not bound by the laws of the empire. When the first founding emperor founded the empire, in order to preserve the martial spirit of the empire, he had decreed that anyone who took off their martial attire and put on a grey robe could become a wandering mercenary. Wandering mercenaries were not bound by the laws of the empire, but they were allowed to be hunted down and have a bounty placed on them. Thus, killing became the norm, creating a world where the strong preyed on the weak. But it was also because of this that the people of the empire worshipped martial arts, and the Templar Church never lacked warriors who could serve as generals. To the north of the empire's territory was the vast northern desert, inhabited by barbaric herdsmen. To the south were the barbarians who lived in the wild forests. Neither was easy to deal with, but these races were willing to submit to the Qin Empire. The biggest reason for this was the empire's martial spirit, and the Templar Church never lacked warriors to serve as generals. Wang Bao held his longsword under his armpit and slowly dragged it. He took out a piece of paper from his bosom. It was a bounty notice. He frowned. Did we lose him? Otherwise, why haven't we found this Lin Muyu kid after 3 days? Lu Shun shook his head. There's no way we lost him. My Shiba Inu sense of smell is unparalleled. We'll catch up very soon. Wang Bao couldn't help but sneer. That Shiba Inu of yours is just a 10th grade wild dog. How dare you say it's unparalleled? Aren't you afraid people will laugh their heads off? Let's go. If we can really find Lin Muyu and kill him, the 2 of us won't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of our lives. 100,000 golden grin coins is enough for us to buy a big house in the empire and 20 of her concubines. We can have fun every night. Lu Shun sneered but did not say anything. Right at this moment, a burst of violent footsteps came from behind. A person carrying a long saber rushed over. His voice was abnormally loud as he shouted, "Hey, the 2 of you, stop!" Wang Bao and Lu Shun immediately stopped in their tracks. Looking at the newcomer, they were secretly shocked. They had already lost to the opponent in terms of momentum. The opponent was carrying a long saber that weighed at least 100 pounds, and his strength was completely above the 2 of them. Have you seen this kid? The newcomer took out the same bounty notice. Wang Bao narrowed his eyes and smiled. I didn't see it. This brother is using a great broadsword. Are you Guan Yang, one of the legendary 7 martial saints? Guan Yang smiled. It's rare that you recognize me. Are you here to kill Lin Muyu as well? Yes. Wang Bao laughed and said, it's not far now. This Lin Muyu is right in front of us. He could kill Hua Wan and Hua Tian with a broken sword, which shows how powerful he is. Since we are all here to kill him, why don't we get a helper, and work together? Guan Yang nodded, that's good. One more person means one more person to look after. Wang Bao smiled, but he did not notice the killing intent that flashed past the corner of Guan Yang's mouth. Then please lead the way. Okay. Just as Wang Bao turned around, he suddenly felt a burning sensation on his back, followed by a heart-wrenching pain in his chest. Looking down, he saw a flame slowly piercing through his armor, and then a blade piercing through his heart. He did not even have time to scream before he fell to the ground. Bastard, how dare you sneak attack us? Lu Shun was furious. His long sword had already pierced towards Guan Yang's armpit like a snake. You're courting death. Guan Yang was extremely fast. He swung his long sword with Wang Bao's body, and with a dang sound, the hilt shook off Lu Shun's long sword. Then he rushed forward and kicked Lu Shun several steps back. Dragging the long sword behind him, Guan Yang raised his left fist covered in flames and punched Lu Shun's chest. Poochie. Blood splattered. The flaming fist penetrated Lu Shun's chest, and the flames instantly charred Lu Shun's internal organs. Guan Yang slowly withdrew his fist, and without looking at Lu Shun's body, he said indifferently, do I need to share the reward with you trash for a mere Lin Muyu? Holding the long sword, he ran away at lightning speed. Finally found it. Lin Muyu clung on to a 1,000-year-old withered tree, feeling ecstatic. You, what did you find? Chu Yao stood under the tree and asked in confusion. Lin Muyu pulled out his sword, and carefully dug out the purple fungus growing out of the tree. Then, the fungus fell to the ground, and he hurriedly said, Sister Chu Yao, don't touch these things with your hands. This is? Chu Yao tilted her head to look at the strange fungus, and suddenly came to a realization, heavens, is this a kind of herb? I've seen it in the Divine Alchemy tome before, and it seems to be poison, dragon's tongue fungus, right? Lin Muyu jumped down from the tree, and smiled, that's right, it's dragon's tongue fungus. This is a highly poisonous herb. What are you doing with these dragon's tongue fungus? To refine poison. To refine poison? Chu Yao opened her small mouth, and said in an educating tone, Grandpa taught us that we are alchemists, and must uphold the heart of practicing medicine. How can we refine poison? Lin Muyu smiled, and held Chu Yao's shoulder, and said, Sister, we are being chased by countless people. If we don't refine poison, I'm afraid we won't even have the chance to practice medicine. Then what kind of poison do you want to refine? Clear breeze intoxication, a level 7 medicine. It scatters with the wind, and can make people confused and slow down. Moreover, it is colorless and odorless, and will not be discovered at all. However, the recipe for clear breeze intoxication requires a dose of intestine-severing orchid, and I haven't been able to find it yet. Chu Yao painstakingly recalled, and said, the Divine Alchemy tome has records of intestine-severing orchid, and it seems that this orchid only blooms at night. Its fragrance is very strange, and a bit smelly. It's going to be night soon. Lin Muyu looked at the sky, and said, dragon's tongue fungus and intestine-severing orchid are both extremely poisonous things. Since there is dragon's tongue fungus here, there must be intestine-severing orchid here. We will find it soon. Saying this, Lin Muyu wrapped the dragon's tongue fungus in layers of leaves, and put it into her bag. Just as she finished all of this, he suddenly felt a strong killing intent behind him. Be careful. He hurriedly pushed Chu Yao away, and without thinking, turned around, and released his martial spirit. The black tortoise shell skill was added to the gourd wall, forming an iron wall defense behind him. Bang! Sparks flew, and a long saber landed heavily on the black tortoise shell, and actually caused many cracks to appear on it. Just from this attack, it could be seen that the attacker's strength was even greater than Hua Tian's. After the flames dissipated, Guanyang stood in front of Lin Muyu, holding a long saber in his hand, and said with a faint smile, "You are indeed worthy of being the kid who killed Hua Tian. You have some skills, but it seems that you can't kill Hua Tian with just this little bit of skill, can you? Heh, it seems that you must have taken advantage of the situation. Who are you?" Lin Muyu slowly pulled out the steel sword on her back, and asked with a calm look in her eyes. "I am Guanyang, one of the 7 martial saints of the 7 Stars Forest. I have come to take your and that little girl's heads." Guanyang raised his hand and took out a piece of paper. He looked at the portrait on it, and then raised his head to look at Lin Muyu. After comparing them a few times, he said with a smile, "It seems that it is you. If you have any last words, say them now, or else you won't have the chance. I should be the one who said that to you." Lin Muyu stood proudly in the same place, and the steel sword in her hand was already flashing with lightning. Arrogant. Guanyang had already seen through her. He could feel that Lin Muyu's strength was only at the level of 38 combat master, while he himself was a genuine level 48 battle saint. He could completely crush his opponent's strength. In the next moment, he had already summoned his martial soul, which was a beast martial soul in the shape of a wolf. The wolf's head appeared on the saber, which made it look even more ferocious. "Go to hell, kid!" Guanyang roared angrily. He pushed his true chi and rushed forward, and with a twist of his saber, he stabbed forward. Lin Muyu had been studying the Imperial Wind Sword art for many days, so she had already gained some experience in combat. She activated the wind symbol formula of the sword art, and retreated as fast as lightning. With 2 clangs, she blocked the sudden stab of the saber. However, Guanyang's attacks were endless. He flipped the hilt of his saber and slashed forward in the air. The beast martial soul on the saber roared, and countless raging flames surged out. Bang! Lin Muyu had completely entered a defensive posture, and was forced to take a few steps back. Both of his arms felt numb. Guanyang's strength was too strong. He silently circulated his chi, and with a swoosh 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 sound, 3 gourd vines broke out of the ground. Guanyang laughed out loud. His boots suddenly stomped on the ground, and the flames spread out, burning all the gourd vines. He sneered, "Is this all you've got? Then I really have to say goodbye." Lin Muyu roared in a low voice, and the gourd vines in all directions quickly rushed forward. Wolf force. Guanyang also roared angrily. The beast martial soul roared, and the raging flames sprayed everywhere. The strength of a level 48 battle saint was indeed amazing. It was as if he was going to start a big fire. The evening sky was lit up by the flames, and Lin Muyu's gourd vines were almost burnt to ashes. Only a few vines were left, and they were still entangling towards Guanyang like poisonous snakes. Bang! Amidst the turbulence, Lin Muyu had already activated his falling star steps, and rushed towards Guanyang at a high speed. His long sword swept across, and he used Thunder Strike. "In your dreams." Guanyang raised his palm and slapped it fiercely. His strength was so strong that he actually shook off the Thunder Strike. However, it was obvious that Lin Muyu had more than this. The blade of her sword slanted, and Guanyang's long sword lost its aim. At the same time, she used the falling star steps and jumped forward, and the long sword was already on Guanyang's back. The flames were raging, and the steel sword could not pierce through Guanyang's protective aura. His strength was way above Lin Muyu's. Sister Chu Yao, Yang Guan Acupoint. Just when Guanyang's back was hit by the hilt of his blade, Lin Muyu had created a perfect opportunity. Guanyang's back was wide open, and the Yang Guan Acupoint was the weakest acupoint on the waist. This was the perfect opportunity. Swoosh! A silver needle was quickly inserted into the Yang Guan Acupoint. Guanyang was startled for a second, and in the next moment, a green vine broke out of the ground and entangled him. The thorns on the green vine pierced into his skin through the Yangguan acupoint. Bastard! Guan Yang was enraged. Chapter 36. As one of the 7 martial saints, he had actually suffered such a great loss at the hands of 2 little brats. This was the greatest humiliation of his life for Guan Yang. The edge of the blade trembled, and a strong flame rushed towards Lin Muyu. But this brat did not even try to fight it head-on. With a leap, he escaped from the attack range like a rabbit. Let's go. Lin Muyu grabbed Xu Yao by the waist, activated the falling star steps, and ran away. Don't go, you shameless brat. Guan Yang was furious. He gathered his true qi, grasped the long blade, and chased after them. But he did not realize that the wound caused by the thorns on the gourd vines was still leaking true qi. After running for almost 20 miles, Lin Muyu finally stopped. He put down Xu Yao, turned around to look at the panting Guan Yang, and slowly pulled out the steel sword. Are you finally tired? Guan Yang sneered, raised the long blade, and said, since you are tired, then die. Lin Muyu smiled, a very bright smile. Rustle, stepping on the grass, he leaped forward. Lin Muyu gathered all the true qi in his body on the steel sword. Lightning flashed. This was his strongest attack, the secret technique passed down from Chu Chu, Thunder Strike. Bang! The blade of the sword struck the hilt with lightning. Guan Yang's arms were numb, his hands could not hold on, and the long blade flew out of his hand. He was a little stunned. The situation had turned around. This brat's true qi was already stronger than his. How is this possible? Guan Yang clenched his teeth. Lin Muyu sneered, his left hand slashed through the air, and with a sharp whistle, the demon noise blade flew straight towards Guan Yang. Guan Yang hurriedly rushed to the long blade, picked up the large blade, and turned around to block. Sparks flew as the demonic noise blade's attack was blocked. Lin Muyu quickly raised her left fist. Bang! Bang! 2 demon sound punches reverberated in the air. The first punch forced Guan Yang to barely raise his true qi to protect his body. Otherwise, the demon sound punches would have shattered his internal organs. The second punch landed on the demon sound saber that was spinning in the air. Crack! The demon noise saber flashed across the night sky like the god of death. In the blink of an eye, it cut through Guan Yang's neck. Blood gushed out of his arteries. He hastily reached out to cover the wound, but it was too late. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, Lin Muyu said with a plain tone, Hua Tian died the same way. Guan Yang's face was filled with anger. He knelt on the ground and collapsed weakly. An expert who dominated a region had died just like that under the demonic noise saber. After catching the demonic noise saber, Lin Muyu split it into 4 flying daggers and hid them at her waist. She walked up to Guan Yang and opened his luggage. She found a dozen or so Jin-in coins and 2 gold notes, one for 100 Jin-in coins and the other for 150 Jin-in coins. She didn't expect one of the 7 martial saints to be so poor, but she still accepted everything. Qiao looked at Guan Yang's corpse on the ground and said, Is it worth it to throw away your life for money? Lin Muyu smiled slightly. That's because we won. Otherwise, he would have carried our heads to collect the bounty of 100,000 Jin-in coins. He would have been the real winner then. Emin, let's go. All right. Before they had gone too far, Lin Muyu suddenly stopped and sniffed hard. She smiled and said, Sister Chu Yao, I found what I was looking for. It's the intestine-severing orchid. Chu Yao was overjoyed. The 2 of them followed the scent and found an orchid under a 1,000-year-old tree. The intestine-severing orchid was highly poisonous like the dragon's tongue fungus. However, when the medicinal essence of these 2 herbs was mixed together, it wasn't highly poisonous. Instead, it was a poison called refreshing breeze intoxication. It would only numb one's mind and slow down one's movements, but it wasn't very fatal. Lin Muyu wasn't in a hurry to refine the medicine. She continued to search the forest with Chu Yao. In the middle of the night, they found another herb, the spirit concentrating flower, a level 6 herb. Chu Yao had already memorized the records in the divine medicine canon. The spirit concentrating flower could be used to refine a medicine called the spirit concentrating powder. It was a rare solid-state medicine, and Chu Yao instantly understood Lin Muyu's intentions. The spirit concentrating powder could neutralize the poison of the refreshing breeze intoxication. Thus, one must first take the spirit concentrating powder before refining the refreshing breeze intoxication. Otherwise, the refiner might not be able to withstand the poison during the refining process. They found a cave in the mountains and spread hay on the ground as a mat. Lin Muyu secretly rejoiced that it was only the Mid-Autumn Festival. If it was winter, she really didn't know how she and Chu Yao could survive in this desolate forest. During the day, they hunted a wild boar and put a piece of fat meat into the iron pot to cook soup. Chu Yao was in charge of food and drink, while Lin Muyu was in charge of defense and refining the medicine. This had already become a tacit understanding between the two of them. A pile of spirit concentrating flour was slowly turned into medicinal essence by Lin Muyu. She used the mountain spring water to refine the medicine. The refining method of spirit concentrating flour was very simple. It was the fermentation of medicinal essence and water. However, the medicinal essence must be very pure. An ordinary refiner wouldn't be able to control it at all. However, Lin Muyu had the essence condensing hand. The purity of medicinal essence had already reached the peak. Therefore, refining the spirit concentrating powder was a piece of cake for him. After refining 2 bottles of spirit concentrating powder, Lin Muyu and Chu Yao drank 1 bottle each. Then, they began to refine the poison. Lin Muyu carefully refined the medicinal essence. Then, she mixed the 2 kinds of medicinal essence in a small bottle and carefully refined it. The breeze drunk was colorless and tasteless. Moreover, the 2 of them had already taken the antidote, so they didn't feel much. After refining a few bottles of breeze drunk and giving them to Chu Yao, Lin Muyu cautiously warned, "When you encounter a strong enemy, pour 1 bottle on the ground. The antidote of spirit concentrating powder has an effect of 48 hours. Both of us will be fine after drinking 1 bottle." Chu Yao did as she was told. Unknowingly, her junior, Lin Muyu, had become her pillar of support. She also knew that this mysterious junior must be hiding something that no one knew. However, since he didn't want to say it, she didn't want to ask. The night passed quickly. On the second day, Lin Muyu woke up early, only to find that his strength had reached saturation. It seemed that he had reached level 39. He only needed a suitable opportunity to step into the realm of Battle Saint. And this opportunity was actually very simple. He just needed to find a spirit beast that was strong enough, kill it, and absorb the spirit of the beast to help him break through. There were many spirit beasts in the 7 Stars forest. There was no doubt about this. Now, he needed to verify a question. Would the breeze drunk have any effect on spirit beasts? In the game, Conquer, that Lin Muyu had played before, the breeze drunk was a first-class poison. It was very effective on players as it could greatly weaken the opponent's strength, allowing the weak to defeat the strong. But what if it was used on spirit beasts? God knows if it would work or not. Let's give it a try. This time, Guan Yang was already so strong. Who would be the next one? Maybe even stronger. Lin Muyu only knew one thing. She had to improve herself, otherwise, she still wouldn't be able to bring Chu Yao out of this forest. Just as they walked out of the cave, a swoosh sound was heard. Lin Muyu hurriedly stepped back and dodged the arrow. The arrow went straight into the rock. The strength of the arrow was really strong. He quickly raised his hand and pulled out his steel sword. He said in a low voice, "Sister, wait for me here." In the next moment, he rushed forward like an arrow. There was a hunter hiding in the forest. He was also a mercenary. "Come out." With a light wave of his palm, green vines rose up. This mercenary was immediately unable to hide. He threw away his longbow and pulled out his sword to slash at the gourd vines around him. However, there were more and more gourd vines. The thorns pierced into his body one after another. Naturally, he couldn't block them. In the midst of a miserable howl, this wandering mercenary with the strength of a level 32 battlemaster hurriedly begged for mercy. Young hero Lin, please spare my life. I don't dare to sneak attack you anymore. Please spare my life. I'm only doing this for the reward. I don't have any evil intentions. Killing for the reward is considered to have no evil intentions? Lin Muyu held his steel sword with a calm expression. He pointed at Chu Yao behind him and said, if I were killed by your sneak attack, would you chop off her beautiful head? Or maybe, that's the answer I want. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. With a sudden thrust of his sword, he pierced through the heart of the wandering mercenary. He didn't dare to be merciful. If he didn't kill this person, he might summon even more mercenaries to chase after him. Furthermore, how many of these wandering mercenaries were good people? More importantly, he had to kill these people who were chasing after him, so he didn't have to be soft-hearted. Carrying his sword that was covered in blood, Lin Muyu turned around and walked to Chu Yao's side. He smiled and said, Sister Chu Yao, don't you think that you is too cruel? Chu Yao looked at his slightly trembling arm and couldn't help but feel a burst of heartache. Her eyes were red as she said, no, I know that you is killing people for me. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. How could he be willing to kill people? Every time he killed someone, his fear increased, and every time he killed someone, his guilt increased. Even in his dreams, it was as if someone was coming to take his life, so after entering the Seven Stars Forest, he had never had a good sleep. Sleep was already an extravagant hope for him. At this time, when he thought about how Chu Chu didn't sleep at night, he seemed to have understood something. They continued to move north. After walking for about 10 miles, they suddenly found a ground full of decaying plants. Everything around them seemed to have changed. Lin Muyu sniffed and said, be careful, there's something poisonous here. What could it be? Chu Yao was shocked. Lin Muyu smiled and comforted her, don't be too nervous. We've all taken the spirit gathering powder. For the time being, no poison can pose a threat to us. Don't worry. And they continued to move forward. Most of the things around them had withered and decayed. They were getting closer and closer to the poison. Be careful, we're here. Lin Muyu pointed at a pale red plant in the distance. She smiled and asked, guess what that is? Chu Yao opened her mouth, I don't know, poisonous coxcomb flower, a plant-type spiritual beast. It has lived for at least 2,000 years. Chapter 37. Venomous Coxcomb Flower. Chu Yao carefully looked into the distance. She had never seen this type of plant-type spirit beast before. Lin Muyu had some understanding of this type of spirit beast, because in Conquer, he had once led his companions to challenge this golden boss. There was nothing scary about the coxcomb flower, except that it could spit out fiery red venom, which was a little tricky to deal with. However, in this world, it seemed that the characteristics of spirit beasts were interlinked with Conquer. Perhaps this would be useful to him. Sister Chu Yao, don't attack first, let me go. Lin Muyu carefully held the steel sword and stepped forward. A spirit beast that was 2,000 years old had the strength of a level 50 battle saint, so it was better to avoid being splashed by the venom. You have to be careful. Chu Yao pursed her red lips and looked at his back worriedly. However, she knew that she should not help him, because Lin Muyu's running speed was far faster than hers. The dodging ability of the fallen star step was something that not many strong warriors could possess. Hiss, hiss, although the coxcomb flower was a plant type, its mobility was not bad. The flower disc, which was about a meter in diameter, slowly raised its head. It had already sensed the approaching danger and let out a snake-like sound. At the same time, a rustling sound came from the surrounding grassland, as if something was wriggling underground. It was the flower vine. Lin Muyu knew all too well that the flower vine of the coxcomb flower was buried underground, but it could emerge from the ground at any time to entangle or even pierce through the enemy. However, the moment the flower vine emerged from the ground, the flower disc would tremble in anticipation. It was probably because the power of the flower vine originated from the flower disc. He stared at the movement of the flower plate as he slowly walked forward. A few seconds later, the flower plate suddenly trembled and a sound came from the ground. Now! Hurriedly activating falling star steps, a silhouette flashed to the side, and a flower vine shot out from the ground. It was covered with poisonous thorns, and it looked like it was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Lin Muyu did not stop and quickly moved. With a stretch of her palm, she took out the demonic noise blade from her back and hurriedly threw it out. With a sharp whistle, the demonic noise blade went straight for the flower's head. Bang! 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 The coxcomb flower, which had cultivated for 2,000 years, naturally knew how to protect itself. A series of flower vines shot out from the ground, forming a green vine barrier. However, the demonic noise saber sliced through with a sharp whistle, spraying out piles of green liquid that went straight for the coxcomb flower's flower disc. GG. The coxcomb flower actually let out a cry similar to that of a small beast. It abruptly opened its flower disc and sprayed out a stream of fiery red poison, which bombarded the demonic noise blade with lightning speed. GG. The magic noise blade immediately emitted green smoke, as if it was being corroded. Lin Muyu's heart ached. This was the treasure that Chu Chu had left for her, the famous weapon of a famous general, Feng Yicheng. The demonic sonic fist was blocked by the countless flower vines surrounding the flower tray. Left with no choice, Lin Muyu turned around and punched the demonic sonic fist at the demonic sonic saber. The saber quickly turned around and flew to the right. Lin Muyu raised her long sword and rushed over. She activated the slash formula of the wind riding sword technique. Her steel sword danced wildly and broke through the flower vines. Ka ka ka, pieces of flower vines flew into the air. After breaking through 3 flower vine barriers, the steel sword was filled with lightning and quickly rushed towards the flower disc. Lightning strike slash. But before he could get close, the coxcomb flower once again opened its sinister mouth and spat out a mouthful of fiery red liquid. The speed at which the liquid sprayed out was so fast that it formed a sharp arrow. Fortunately, Lin Muyu was already prepared. She raised her left arm and her martial spirit came out, condensing the mystic tortoise shell on the wall of the gourd. Chi La, the poisonous liquid splattered on the wall of the gourd, immediately injuring her martial spirit. The liquid was not only poisonous, it also had a strong corrosive effect. The mystic tortoise shell melted in the blink of an eye. Her martial spirit was injured, and her body was not much better off. Lin Muyu's heart was in turmoil. Fortunately, she was able to discern the location of the magic noise blade by listening to the sound. Sister Chu Yao used the purple marten to spit fire at the flower vines. After a loud shout, flames came from outside. Chu Yao opened her hand and summoned the purple marten. The little purple marten roared crazily and spat out flames. This was the move that the fire fox was good at. As a result, the body of the coxcomb flower could not take it anymore after being burned by the purple marten. It screamed loudly and all the vines convulsed. Good chance. The demonic noise saber came whistling from behind, and with a kacha sound, a part of the flower's stem was severed. Lin Muyu took advantage of this heaven-sent opportunity to dash forward with her sword. With a sudden burst of speed, she slashed at the damaged part of the flower's stem with lightning strike slash. This flower's toughness was not inferior to that of the iron pear flower. Hua la, countless poisonous liquid splattered everywhere. Lin Muyu quickly raised her arm and summoned the green gourd to protect herself. She covered her entire body behind the wall of the gourd and waited for the poisonous liquid to finish spraying out before she was safe. The poison coxcomb flower had already turned into a plant and was dead. A ball of beast spirit appeared on top of it. Chuya walked over carefully and saw that Lin Muyu's martial spirit was covered in the poisonous liquid. She could not help but ask, are you all right? I'm fine. Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and smiled. Luckily we all used the spirit concentration powder. Otherwise, the poisonous liquid would have been enough to make us vomit for a while. Hurry up and refine the beast spirit. All right. Without sitting down, she stood up and summoned her martial spirit. The green gourd began to absorb the coxcomb flower's beast spirit. At the same time, she took out the artifact refining cauldron. With a buzz, a golden light enveloped the surroundings. Even Chu Yao was enveloped in it. She widened her eyes and stared at the artifact refining cauldron in shock. What is this? A vessel. Lin Muyu explained briefly. Seeing Chu Yao's confused expression, she could not help but smile and say, "This is my unique vessel. It can better absorb the beast spirit. You can even say that it can absorb the special skills contained in the beast spirit." Ah. Chu Yao's mouth fell open. No wonder Yu's martial spirit gains skills every time it breaks through. That means that I was able to absorb the Fire Fox's Flame Blast skill because of Yu's help. Yes. Lin Muyu did not deny it. At this moment, he and Chu Yao could be considered to be in a life and death situation. There was no need to hide anything. Of course, he did not mention that he had transmigrated from a game. There was no way he could explain it. Even he did not understand what was going on. The refining process lasted for close to an hour. Within the violent coxcomb flower's beast spirit, Lin Muyu finally caught hold of the most violent and poisonous energy. She refined it bit by bit. Immediately, the green gourd changed color. It was no longer green, but a dark red gourd. Looking inside his eye, he discovered that within the red gourd, there was a violent poisonous liquid energy. This was the source of the skill. Congratulations, brother, your green gourd has broken through to the 4th level. You have also obtained the coxcomb flower's skill, poisonous liquid spray. The female elf official, Lulu, had flown out. However, only Lin Muyu could see her. She smiled as she nestled on Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, "Brother is getting stronger and stronger. I am so happy. However, brother has been living in the mountains every day. It is too hard. Those bad guys have been chasing brother for money. Damn it." Lin Muyu smiled and did not explain. Lulu played for a while before entering his high to sleep. It was not easy for this little elf to survive in this world. Every time it appeared, it would consume a lot of energy. Standing up, Lin Muyu exerted strength in his fist. Suddenly, his true chi turned into raging flames and spewed out. Lin Muyu leisurely took a deep breath. He had never felt so comfortable before. It was as if all the bones, muscles, and blood vessels in his body had been refined. Chu Yao smiled and said, "Congratulations, you have stepped into the 2nd level of the Earth realm. You have become a level 40 war elder." Level 40. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Back then, a level 42 Hawkeye was an unparalleled existence in her heart. But now, she had unknowingly reached level 40, and the power of her martial soul was even purer. Coupled with her demon noise blade and demon noise fist, even 2 Hawkeyes wouldn't be a match for her. "Let's go, big sister Chu Yao. There is nothing left to be attached to here." Lin Muyu lifted the steel sword and picked up the magic noise blade. However, she found that the blade was still stained with a poisonous liquid. Thus, she washed it with the nearby stream. After the liquid dispersed, the magic noise blade was still as bright as snow. It was not corroded by the poison at all. It was indeed a treasured blade. No wonder it was called Feng Yicheng's famous divine weapon. Putting the magic noise blade back into his bag, he continued forward with Chu Yao. Not long after, an eagle's cry suddenly came from the sky. Looking up, there was a goshawk circling above their heads. Immediately, Lin Muyu's heart sank. She could not help but frown, but did not say anything. Chu Yao saw it and said with a smile, "The goshawk is probably looking for food. This kind of situation is very common in the jungle." But, Lin Muyu nodded and said, but it is not the first time we have seen this eagle. Ayu, what do you mean? Yes, I am afraid we have been targeted again. Let's go. Lin Muyu looked up at the goshawk in the sky and clenched her teeth. This feathered beast should be thankful that I didn't bring my bow with me. Otherwise, I'll definitely shoot. No, my archery skills haven't reached an extraordinary level yet. With such a high distance, I definitely won't be able to hit the target. Forget it, I'll just take it one step at a time. If someone really came after me, I'll just fight with my life. Chapter 38. A mournful cry could be heard as a black goshawk descended from the sky and landed under a towering ancient tree in the seven-star forest. Under the tree was a man riding a fiery red steed. On the horse's back was a light golden carved bow with shining jewels. He raised his arm and let the goshawk land on it. Then, he heard the goshawk cry something and smiled, looks like it's not too far away. This Lin Muyu is really amazing to be able to kill Big Blade Guanyang. It looks like this trip of mine, Yi Liang's, will not be in vain. As he said this, he suddenly cracked his whip and the horse immediately neighed and rushed forward. The mountain was full of jagged rocks, but the horse was able to walk through the shrubs and boulders as if it was flat ground. It was truly majestic. In the blink of an eye, night had fallen. This was the time that Lin Muyu worried about the most. They had to find a suitable place to set up camp and the fire couldn't be spread too far. Otherwise, they would be easily discovered. Therefore, they had to find a place like a depression or a cave. However, caves usually had a master. Wild beasts' night vision was far better than humans. Lin Muyu was very self-aware and didn't want to challenge a spirit beast in the middle of the night unless it was absolutely necessary. Let's stay here, we can't go any further. He raised his head and looked into the distance. There were waves of wolf howls coming from that direction. It wouldn't be good if they attracted a pack of wolves. Most of the wolves in the seven-star forest were spirit beasts that were less than 1,000 years old. He could easily kill them one by one, but if a pack came, he and Chuyao would become a delicious meal in the mouth of the pack. Tonight, they chose a small cave that was only about 3 meters deep. In reality, it was just a cave that was sunken into the rock wall to hide. It couldn't even be considered a cave. Chuyao looked around for some dry wood to use as firewood. Lin Muyu used a water bag to wash the stag meat that they had hunted an hour ago. It was a stag that was less than 5 years old and didn't have a beast spirit. It was used as a meat deer. Luckily, the meat was very fresh and tender. At least they wouldn't starve for this meal. Every time they killed a wild beast, Lin Muyu didn't dare cut off too much of its meat. This was because carrying too much weight on the way would easily exhaust her stamina. She and Chuyao were in a state of being chased, so they had to store enough stamina to deal with any pursuers that might come at any time. Not long after, a pot of fragrant venison soup was already boiling. Chuyao used a clean dagger to stir the venison in the pot, a trace of hope on her beautiful face. It was rare for her to be able to maintain a childish heart here. Let's eat, you. Got it. I'll be right there. Lin Muyu carried a bundle of firewood and walked back. She had to store some firewood for the night. Otherwise, it would be too easy for the beasts to get close. At this moment, a jia jia sound suddenly came from the sky. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown. It was too familiar. That's right, it was the voice of the goshawk. Its cry was very mournful. What's wrong? Chuyao walked out. It's that eagle again. It's following us. Lin Muyu said. Chuyao looked up at the sky full of stars and pouted. It can't be. Could it be that someone is using the eagle's tracking ability to follow us? I can't rule out that possibility. Lin Muyu put down the firewood and said, Sister Chuyao, what do you know about wandering mercenaries? Among the 7 martial saints, is there anyone who is good at taming eagles to follow others? I don't know much about the 7 martial saints, but... Chuyao nodded and thought for a moment. She suddenly said, I know one. One of the 7 martial saints, Yi Liang, is known as the eagle tamer. He has an eagle that is good at tracking. But, it shouldn't be that bad, right? I heard that Yi Liang's family background is very good. His father is the owner of a villa. He shouldn't be someone who would risk his life for 100,000 Jin coins. That's hard to say. Everyone pursues different things. After sitting down, Lin Muyu frowned and said, Sister, hurry up and eat. After this meal, we'll continue on our way and leave this place. Chu Yao was startled. Are we going to travel at night? Yes, we must get rid of this eagle. Otherwise, I'll feel like I'm sitting on pins and needles. All right then, Chu Yao ladled a bowl of soup with a lot of meat for her. Lin Muyu didn't care that the soup was too hot and wolfed it down. Then, he packed up his luggage and watched as Chu Yao finished the soup and extinguished the fire. However, he hadn't gone too far when he suddenly heard the sound of hooves behind him. Not good, it's coming. He hurriedly threw down his luggage and pulled out his steel sword. But at this moment, the sound of rushing wind whistled past. By the time Lin Muyu turned around, it was already too late. With a poochie sound, an iron arrow had pierced through his chest, straight through his back. You! Chu Yao's voice was especially miserable. She just watched as an arrow pierced through Lin Muyu's chest. A large amount of blood flowed down along with the arrow's head. Don't move. Get down. Lin Muyu endured the pain but was exceptionally calm. He pressed down on Chu Yao's shoulder and pressed her down into the bushes. The sound of hooves grew closer and closer. Then, 2 more arrows were shot, but they both disappeared into the bushes. His judgment was very accurate. The intruder had determined his position by the target's movement. If he didn't move, then the intruder wouldn't know where he was at all. Pa! The intruder dismounted and raised his hand to pull out a long sword with a keng sound. The blade of the sword was surrounded by flames and reflected on his face. It was one of the 7 martial saints, Yi Liang. Come out, Lin Muyu. Yi Liang laughed loudly and suddenly slashed out with his sword. The flames exploded and the bushes caught fire, illuminating the entire area. At this time, there was nowhere to hide. Lin Muyu slowly grabbed the handle of the arrow and slowly pulled it out. The pain was so great that she was about to collapse. Chu Yao's eyes were filled with tears as she watched. She hurriedly poured a bottle of first-rank healing medicine on the wounds on her chest and back. However, Lin Muyu had already discovered through her inner vision that her lungs had been pierced through. Breathing had become difficult and she had to end this quickly. Holding on to Chu Yao's hand, he lowered his voice and said, Use drunk breeze. I will go out and attract his attention. No. Just as Chu Yao was about to say something, she saw that Lin Muyu had already stood up. From afar, Yi Liang still looked like a young man less than 30 years old. The artifact carving bow was hanging on the horse behind him. Without the bow and arrow, Lin Muyu felt much more at ease. Behind him, Chu Yao had already opened the cap of a bottle of drunk breeze. Immediately, the colorless and odorless poison quietly spread out. You are Lin Muyu? Under the illumination of the flames, Yi Liang's face was filled with arrogance and pride. He smiled and said, It seems like you are just a weakling. How could someone like you kill Big Blade Guanyang? Lin Muyu was inwardly furious. He thought to himself, if it weren't for this grandson's sneak attack, I would have killed you as well. However, he didn't have the confidence to do so now. His opponent was a level 51 battle saint. His strength was originally above his own. Moreover, he was seriously injured. His only chance of winning was the effect of the drunk breeze's poison. Who are you? How dare you attack me with a sneak attack? How shameless. He tried to stall for time. Yi Liang laughed coldly. This young master is Yi Liang, ranked 3rd among the 7 martial saints. Let me tell you, this young master only casually shot you with an arrow. You're just unlucky. Furthermore, even if this young master didn't shoot you in the dark, I could still kill you. A person like you can only kill trash like Guanyang, who hasn't even stepped into the third sky of the earth realm. As he spoke, the long sword in Yi Liang's hand slowly trembled. A fire snake actually climbed up the blade. This was his 6th grade martial spirit, Fire Snake. It could greatly increase the power of its owner's law of fire. It was also because of the power of the fire snake that Yi Liang was able to become one of the 7 martial saints at such a young age. Lin Muyu only felt that it was getting harder and harder to breathe. He held the steel sword tightly in his right hand and raised his head to look at Yi Liang. He said, "Even if you kill me today, it will be an unfair victory. You will only be the laughing stock of the world." What a joke. Yi Liang sneered, "If I kill you now, who will know that I shot you with a sneak attack?" As he spoke, he already couldn't wait to attack. He leaped into the sword light and attacked. Lin Muyu couldn't even see Yi Liang's figure. She only saw streaks of sword chi coming at her from the firelight. They couldn't attack each other. This attack had to be defended. She suddenly opened her left hand and the gourd martial spirit came out of her body. Then, she condensed the black tortoise shell. Clang, clang, clang. Yi Liang's blade cut the black tortoise shell 3 times in a row and created 3 cracks. However, the powerful rebound caused him to freeze on the spot. He said in shock, "Such powerful defense. Are you really only at the first sky of the earth realm?" Lin Muyu didn't say anything. As the black tortoise shell dissipated, she had already charged forward. Her steel sword struck Yi Liang's abdomen with flames and lightning. Bam! Yi Liang was unscathed from the heavy strike. Instead, pieces of gaseous armor slowly crumbled from his abdomen. It was an ability unique to the 3rd firmament of the earth realm, Chi armor. It could condense quintessential Chi into Chi armor to protect oneself. Looking at the fiery red true Chi that appeared on the surface of Lin Muyu's body, Yi Liang couldn't help but laugh. "So you've already stepped into the 2nd sky of the earth realm. No wonder. Ha ha ha, this is great." As he spoke, he took a few steps back and held his long sword horizontally. The fire serpent martial spirit suddenly transformed and enlarged, turning into a real fire serpent that swallowed her. Lin Muyu had no choice but to defend. She forcefully gathered her true chi and condensed the black tortoise shell again. Bam! Under the crazy attack, he took a few steps back. The clothes on his shoulders were already burnt. It was very tragic. How could he be Yi Liang's match when there was a huge difference in strength? Die! Yi Liang rushed forward again. Just as he was about to kill Lin Muyu with one sword strike, a vine suddenly rose from under his feet and quickly wrapped around his feet. It was the root entanglement skill of the gourd martial spirit. Damn it, what is this? He shouted angrily and quickly raised the flame essence to burn the green vine. How could Lin Muyu let go of such an opportunity? With a low shout, her true chi turned into poisonous liquid and shot out from the gourd flower on the gourd vine. This world was full of schemes. Yi Liang had taught Lin Muyu a lesson. This time, it was Lin Muyu's turn to teach him a lesson. Chapter 39. Hua. The all-pervasive poisonous liquid turned into rain and fell on Yi Liang's body, sizzling as it began to corrode his body. In the blink of an eye, his body was already badly mutilated. It was truly too miserable. Yi Liang's mistake was that he was too confident. He thought that he could rely on his sword arts to block Lin Muyu's attack, so he did not use any extra true chi to reform his chi armor. He never thought that Lin Muyu's martial spirit would also have a move like poisonous liquid spray. In an instant, his entire body was covered in poisonous liquid, the surface of his skin quickly corroded, and his originally handsome face had already collapsed into a terrifying appearance. "I'll kill you. I'll kill you." He roared hoarsely, trying to determine the position of the sound. Although he was ambushed, he still had his strength, and his long sword was covered in blazing flames as it smashed down from the sky. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu's breathing was already becoming weaker and weaker, his lungs had been pierced and he was reaching the limit of his physical strength. His legs were like lead, unable to move, and he could not even use falling star steps. He could only raise his longsword with both arms to block this swift and fierce attack. Dang! A crisp sound rang out, and the steel sword was cut in half. Yi Liang was holding a treasured sword, while Lin Muyu was only holding an excellent longsword used by mercenaries. After the sound of the sword breaking, the fiery red longsword quickly slashed down. Pooh! Blood splattered, and it directly cut into his shoulder. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Lin Muyu knelt on one knee, clenched his teeth, and opened his hand to grab the edge of the sword, preventing it from continuing to cut down, or else it would injure his muscles and bones. Still not going to die. The corner of Yi Liang's mouth was filled with a sinister smile, and he used his true qi to forcefully press down on the long sword. However, at this moment, a sudden feeling of dizziness came over him, and he almost could not hold the long sword anymore. Finally, the clear breeze drunk's medicine took effect. What's going on? Yi Liang hurriedly shook his head, but the feeling of dizziness became stronger and stronger. He lifted his leg and kicked Lin Muyu's chest. Peng! Lin Muyu responded and rolled into the grass. I want you dead. Yi Liang limped towards Lin Muyu, who was in the bushes. He kept shaking his head. His vision was affected by the cool breeze drunk, and he could barely see anything. Just at this time, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. Pa! 2 silver needles were shot into the acupoints on Yi Liang's chest. Immediately, he was unable to move. Amidst the flames, Chu Yao sprinted over and abruptly grabbed the long sword in Yi Liang's hand. She turned around and slashed at him. Kacha! Blood splattered everywhere. Yi Liang, one of the 7 martial saints, his head fell to the ground. You! Chu Yao rushed over and saw Lin Muyu lying in a pool of blood. She burst into tears and hugged him. Are you okay? You, quickly say something to big sister. Lin Muyu slowly opened her eyes. Yi Liang, dead. Good. The corner of his mouth twitched with difficulty and revealed a smile. He stuttered, Sister Chu Yao, I can't hold on much longer. Hurry up and seal my acupoints with silver needles to stop the bleeding. Then use the healing medicine in my pocket to heal my internal injuries. Otherwise, I might really die. All right. Chu Yao immediately put him down and quickly took out her silver needles. She followed the method Chu had left behind and sealed the corresponding acupoints one by one to stop the bleeding. Then, she took out Lin Muyu's first-grade healing medicine and poured it on the wound. However, the arrow that had pierced through Lin Muyu's chest was too serious. It was unknown whether she could survive or not. For a moment, Chu Yao's heart was in a mess. She hugged Lin Muyu and sobbed in the night sky. The starlight shone on the mountains. The young man and woman continued to experience life and death, as if there was no end. The devil's claws continued to dance in the night. The justice of this world had already fallen asleep. That night, Chu Yao did not sleep. She had been taking care of the injured Lin Muyu. In the early hours of the morning, Lin Muyu finally fell into a deep sleep. The wound had stopped bleeding completely. He had refined many first-grade healing medicines before this, but he did not expect that these medicines would actually save his life. At noon the next day, he slowly woke up and finally opened his eyes. As soon as she saw him open his eyes, Chu Yao immediately burst into tears. The fact that he could wake up meant that he could live on. Lin Muyu lay weakly in the grass. She heaved a sigh of relief and looked at her injuries. Under the effect of the healing medicine, the puncture in her lungs had basically begun to heal. This process took an entire night and so long because she was unconscious. Now that she had woken up, she gathered the true qi in her body bit by bit and used it to heal herself. After drinking some meat soup, she finally recovered some strength, and the martial soul gourd was also continuously recovering true qi to provide for her body. Seeing that Lin Muyu's face was gradually regaining color, Chu Yao finally smiled through her tears. At night, Lin Muyu could already get up and walk. After all, she was an expert who had stepped into the second heaven of the earth realm, so she should have such a strong recovery ability. In the grass, a long sword with a faint glow of fire lay there quietly. It was Yi Liang's weapon. Humph, it's all because of this. Chu Yao said angrily, if it weren't for this sword, you wouldn't have been so seriously injured. As she spoke, she picked up the long sword and smashed it on the stone. This senior sister was really too willful. Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She hurriedly said, don't, Sister Chu Yao. Leave this sword to me. It just happened that my weapon was broken by it. This sword should have some reputation, otherwise it wouldn't be able to break my steel sword in an instant. Chu Yao handed the long sword to him. He reached out and gently touched the sword. A faint warmth was transmitted into his fingers. The sword's streamline was very simple and clear, and near the handle was engraved with 2 words, Prairie Fire. It should be the name of this sword. Lin Muyu thought of the burning flames produced when this sword was swung. It was indeed very suitable for its name. She couldn't help but laugh and said, Prairie Fire, good name. From now on, this sword belongs to me, right? Chu Yao giggled, it's yours, it's yours. I'll give you anything you want. Lin Muyu smiled and said, I remember when Yi Liang came here, he rode a fine horse. Where did that horse go? I caught it and tied it in the jungle over there. Okay, we have a mount. That horse looks very handsome. It should be enough to carry the 2 of us, right? Chu Yao blushed. Thinking of riding with him, she couldn't help but think more, but she still nodded and said, it should be possible. Are we going to ride a horse? Yes, otherwise I really don't know when we can reach Lanyan City. That's good. They recuperated until dawn the next day. In the middle of the night, a wandering mercenary came, but he only had the strength of a level 27 battle spirit. He was injured by Chu Yao's silver needles, and then killed by Lin Muyu's demonic sound fist. They didn't dare to be careless, but they never spared the life of any mercenary who tried to sneak attack them. In the morning, after eating their fill, they packed their luggage and hung it on both sides of the fine horse. Chu Yao rode the horse, while Lin Muyu sat in the back with the burning prairie sword hanging on his back. He only had a little bit of everything he had. As for the treasured carving bow, he also left behind. After all, the range of the demonic sound blade was only a few dozen meters, but with enough arm strength, the treasured carving bow could shoot hundreds of steps away. In this world, riding and archery were both necessary skills for warriors to learn. This had already made Lin Muyu determined to practice archery. Fortunately, he was born with a high comprehension ability, so he learned very quickly through self-study. After getting a mount, their speed became much faster. They could even gallop on flat terrain. At this speed, they should be able to enter the territory of Lanyan City in about 3 to 5 days. Along the way, he still didn't forget to cultivate, and even killed a spirit beast, helping Chu Yao to break through to the level of a level 34 battle master. Lin Muyu's advancement was even faster, and he already had the strength of a level 45 battle elder. Basically, he could easily defeat any opponent with the strength of a level 50 battle saint. After all, his 4-layer gourd martial soul had 4 skills, which was unique in the continent. Many opponents were at a disadvantage because of the martial soul skills, and they were simply being toyed with. Jia jia, in the sky, a bird's cry came. Lin Muyu looked up, it was that goshawk again. After its master died, the goshawk that Yi Liang had tamed had been following him. Touching the treasured carving bow, he jumped off the horse with killing intent, took out an arrow and knocked it, saying, "Bastard, who told you to follow us again?" Whoosh! Amidst the sound of a bowstring being released, the goshawk let out a mournful cry as it was shot through. It landed in the distant forest. Lin Muyu found it in a few steps and carried it back. She said with a smile, "Sister Chu Yao, pluck its feathers and cook it at noon. Goshawk meat should be quite delicious." Chu Yao pursed her lips and smiled, okay. However, at this time, a mournful bird cry suddenly came from the sky, and a gray figure flew over, getting closer and closer. Chu Yao squinted her beautiful eyes. That's a falcon, a bird of prey in the sky, it's carnivorous. Lin Muyu knocked his bow again. Shoot it down and make 2 pots of soup. Don't worry. Chu Yao giggled, this falcon doesn't seem to be hostile, it should be looking for us. When I was in Silver Fir City, I saw people taming falcons to deliver letters, maybe this is also the case. Oh, is that so? Under Lin Muyu's incredulous gaze, the falcon really did quickly land on Chu Yao's arm. It didn't seem to be ferocious, and there was a small bamboo tube tied to its leg. After Chu Yao took it off, she took out a note from the bamboo tube, saying, this is for you. There was actually someone who would send him a letter through a bird. This was a bit strange, who could it be? Receiving the note, there were a few lines clearly written on it. Young hero Lin, I am Lei Baijian of the 100 War Trading Company. I know that young hero is in trouble, but I am unable to extricate myself and cannot provide any assistance. However, if young hero is interested, you can find a mercenary group in the 7 Stars Forest Scorching Wind Mountain area, called Scorching Wind Mercenaries. The leader is called Lei Qianhai, this humble one's younger twin brother. When Qianhai sees this letter, he will naturally understand his brother's intentions and will protect young hero along the way. Hope you take care. Looking at this note, Lin Muyu actually felt a little touched. She and Chu Yao had been fleeing for so many days in the 7 Stars Forest, but had never seen a real person. This Lei Baijian and she had only met once, but now he had sent a letter to help. It was really rare. Merchants could actually be so benevolent and righteous. Chapter 40. Are we going to look for the Scorching Wind mercenary group? Chu Yao was a little hesitant. Lin Muyu asked, Big sister Chu Yao, what do you think? Chu Yao's brows tightly knit together. Originally, it would have been best for us to silently go to Lanyan City, but there have been more and more mercenaries chasing us these past few days. You're also heavily injured. I'm worried that if we run into a group of mercenaries, we won't be a match for them. Scorching Wind Mountain is less than 100 miles from here. How about we go? Lin Muyu nodded. His injuries had indeed not completely healed, and he could only use less than 70% of his strength. If he really met experts like Yi Liang and Guanyang again, he might really be in danger. In just half a day, they arrived at the Scorching Wind Mountain. This was a mountain peak located in the volcanic belt. From afar, they could even see the magnificent scene of volcanoes erupting. When the two of them arrived at the foot of the mountain, they encountered a few minions. Lin Muyu took out Lei Baijian's letter and was brought up the mountain. Rather than calling it a mercenary group, it would be better to call it a bandit group that had gathered in the mountain stronghold. Each and every mercenary didn't look like a soldier at all. Their faces were like bandits, causing Lin Muyu and Chu Yao to feel a little uneasy. The leader is in the hall, please come in. One of the minions said respectfully. Lin Muyu took down the Scorching Wind sword and carefully entered the hall with her hand on the hilt. There were dozens of chairs on both sides of the hall, and all the leaders were present. The leader's seat was occupied by a middle-aged mercenary who looked to be around 35 years old. His eyes shone brightly. You're Lin Muyu? The corner of his mouth rose. Yes, you're the leader of the Scorching Wind mercenary group, Lei Qianhai? Yes, that's me. Lei Qianhai walked down from his chair and laughed. Little brother, you were actually able to single-handedly slaughter Hua Tian and Hua Wan, the father and son who had been tyrannical for many years. You're indeed a young hero. Come, sit. You're all tired, right? Servants, prepare dinner. Lin Muyu cupped her hands and respectfully refused. Senior sister and I have been chased along the way, so we don't dare to disturb leader too much. Let's skip this meal, we plan to set off immediately. If it's possible, I hope that leader can send some brothers to protect us along the way. I can pay them handsomely. What are you talking about, young hero? Lei Qianhai patted his chest and said, my brother asked me to protect you. If I, Lei Qianhai, were to accept your reward, then what kind of person would I be? Since young hero doesn't want to stay the night, that's fine too. I'll choose 100 of the most agile people on the mountain to accompany young hero. 100 people? Lin Muyu was taken aback. No need for that many. 20 is enough. Young hero is too polite. Servants, immediately choose 20 elite soldiers and prepare to set off. In addition, prepare enough food, water, and horses. We must escort young hero Lin safely to the place he wishes to go. As he spoke, Lei Qianhai suddenly bent down and looked at Lin Muyu and Chu Yao with a burning gaze. It's said that Hua Tian lost his life in order to seize a copy of the Divine Medicine Codex. Young hero should have already retrieved the Divine Medicine Codex, right? Chu Yao was stunned. Lin Muyu indifferently said, when we escaped, it was raining heavily and I was injured. My blood mixed with the rainwater, and by the time I remembered, the Divine Medicine Codex had already become a pile of grass pulp. So, the Divine Medicine Codex no longer exists in this world. Oh, so it's like that, Lei Qianhai faintly smiled, but the disappointment in his eyes did not escape Lin Muyu's eyes. He then looked at the long sword in Lin Muyu's hand, and his eyes lit up. This sword seems to be a soul-refining artifact. What is its name? Lin Muyu inwardly cursed. How was this Lei Qianhai a good person? He was obviously a bandit. This sword is called Prairie Fire. It was given to me by Yi Liang, one of the 7 martial saints. Oh. Yi Liang gave it to you? Lei Qianhai squinted his eyes. I'm afraid, with Yi Liang's personality, he wouldn't be so generous. He even gave his protective sword to someone else. Could there be some misunderstanding? Lin Muyu faintly smiled. Then I'll tell you the truth. It's Yi Liang's relic. What? Yi Liang is dead? Lei Qianhai was extremely shocked. He muttered, Yi Liang, ranked 3rd among the 7 martial saints, is actually dead. Heavens, could it be that he died at young hero's hands? Lin Muyu nodded. He wanted to kill me. I had no choice but to take his life. A trace of shock flashed through Lei Qianhai's eyes. He raised his gaze and looked at the high-ranking officer of the mercenary group. He said in a clear voice, the mountain road is rugged and dangerous. Xinglan, will you escort young hero Lin to the north? Among the crowd, a general holding a spear stood up and cupped his fists. Yes, Captain. Lei Qianhai faintly smiled. Young hero Lin, Xinglan is the best spear user in our Scorching Wind mercenary group. Her ability to fight on horseback is second to none. She has the strength of a level 46 battle elder. I believe she can help young hero Lin and Miss Chu overcome this difficult time. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, Thank you, Captain Lei. Chu Yao looked at him with a trace of worry in her eyes. How could Lin Muyu not be worried? The greed in Lei Qianhai's eyes was too obvious. The more people he sent, the more he wanted the treasure in Lin Muyu's hands. Lei Qianhai's gaze towards Chu Yao was also filled with greed. It seemed that this mercenary group leader was determined to get his hands on the great beauty Chu Yao. The reason why he didn't make a move on the mountain was probably because he wanted to take into account the reputation of the Scorching Wind mercenary group in the mercenary world. If he made a move at the foot of the mountain, wouldn't he be able to push the blame onto others? This was also Lin Muyu's only chance. If she went down the mountain and faced 21 experts, she might have a chance to survive. However, if she were to face over 2,000 mercenaries on the mountain, she would have no chance at all. Lei Qianhai also prepared a horse for Chu Yao, but it looked sickly. Following that, the 21 mercenaries, including Xinglan, all mounted their horses. However, they didn't bring much food and water, which was enough to prove that they didn't plan on traveling for too long. Perhaps, they planned to make a move the moment they reached the foot of the Scorching Wind mountain. Forgive me for not sending you off. Lei Qianhai cupped his fists and laughed. Lin Muyu cupped her fists in return. She gripped her prairie fire sword tightly and urged her horse to leave with Chu Yao. The 21 mercenaries immediately followed closely behind. The group of people whizzed down the mountain. Not long after descending the scorching wind mountain, Chu Yao's horse quickly stopped running. It was a sickly horse. Lin Muyu also deduced Lei Qianhai's vicious intentions. As long as Chu Yao couldn't leave, he couldn't leave either. If the two of them rode on the same horse, they definitely wouldn't be able to outrun them. His gaze inadvertently swept across the group of mercenaries. The strongest person in this group was the level 46 battle elder Xing Lan. There were also a few battle masters over level 30. The rest were mostly battle spirits or battle generals, so there was nothing to be afraid of. However, what made Lin Muyu secretly complain was that every single one of these people had a bow hanging beside their horses. This already made him lose all thoughts of escaping. Either he killed this group of people, or he would have to leave Chu Yao, the prairie fire sword, and his own life behind. Young hero Lin, I wonder what records are recorded in the God of Medicine's canon? Xing Lan suddenly asked. I don't know. I have never seen my master's things. Oh, so that's how it is. Xing Lan looked into the distance and said, there are a lot of swift wolves living in the Gale Ridge in front of us. These swift wolves are very active at night. Why don't we camp under the Gale Ridge for the night and set off tomorrow morning? Under the Gale Ridge? Lin Muyu frowned and said, no need. We should take advantage of the night to cross the Gale Ridge. Otherwise, there will be more and more mercenaries chasing after us. I am also worried that something might happen to your people. If that's the case. A trace of killing intent flashed through Xing Lan's eyes. She smiled and said, all right then, we'll cross the Gale Ridge. We have a lot of people, so those swift wolves shouldn't dare to attack us. Otherwise, they will definitely break their teeth. Ha ha ha. That's right, young hero, is the God of Medicine's canon completely rotten? There should be some words left, right? It's all rotten. I can't see a single word clearly. Moreover, it's covered in blood. So that's how it is. Xing Lan wanted to ask more, but Lin Muyu had already urged her horse forward. She reached out and grabbed Chu Yao's slender waist, pulling her into her arms and speeding up. Chu Yao's heart warmed, but she said in a small voice, they are about to make a move. Yes, I know. Lin Muyu lowered her voice and said, once they make a move, immediately pour a bottle of refreshing breeze. I will hold them off. Their cultivation is far from Yi Liang's, so the effects of the medicine should take effect very quickly. However, before they make a move, we cannot make a move. After all, we cannot be sure that they will really harm us. We cannot kill a good person by mistake. Yes. One of them was slower than the other, so they were quickly caught up. 5 mercenaries were on the right, 5 in front, and 5 on the left. There was no one behind them, so they formed a circle around them. The signs of a fight were becoming more and more obvious. Young hero, we are almost at the swift wolves' gathering place. Xing Lan laughed. So what? Lin Muyu asked coldly. They have been hungry for a long time. Xing Lan's smile became even wider. Young hero, you should know how to cut meat to feed the wolves, right? Ha ha ha, they are really hungry. The surrounding mercenaries all took out their weapons. Some of them had already drawn their longbows and pointed them at Lin Muyu. Xing Lan even raised her spear and laughed loudly. Lin Muyu, your head is worth 100,000 Jinin coins. Don't blame us. Do it. Lin Muyu said indifferently. Chu Yao quickly poured the refreshing breeze on the grass. At the same time, the green gourd martial spirit came out of her body and condensed into a complete gourd shape, covering the 2 people and the horse. The mystic tortoise shell also formed a circle and blocked the arrows. Xing Lan soared into the sky and raised her spear with both hands. Her martial spirit came out of her body, and icicles surged on the spear and landed on the mystic tortoise shell with great force. Bam! The ice crystal shattered and Xing Lan was bounced back. However, Lin Muyu did not fare well either. Her blood and qi were in turmoil from the attack. She raised her hand and threw out the demonic noise saber. Amidst the whistling sound, the two mercenaries quickly screamed and died. Chapter 41. You're courting death. When Xinglan saw that two mercenaries had been killed, he immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. Icicles surged on his spear, and his entire body entered an extremely cold domain. His martial soul was an ice beast, and he also cultivated the law of ice, causing his entire body to be as cold as ice. At this moment, his entire body was like an ice-cold spear, charging straight at Lin Muyu. Break! The spear in his hand spun rapidly, forming an extremely powerful spiraling penetrating force. With a bang, it collided with the black tortoise shell. The powerful penetrating force caused Lin Muyu to shiver uncontrollably. In the next moment, the black tortoise shell was directly pierced through, and the tip of the spear struck his shoulder. Before the blood could spurt out, it had already frozen. The power of the ice seal was too strong, and Lin Muyu's left arm had already lost the ability to move. Poison liquid. With a low roar, green vines suddenly rose from the surrounding ground, binding Xinglan and his horse within. He had never seen such a formation before, and hurriedly raised his spear to block in front of him. However, how could he block the poison liquid? With a splash, a mouthful of poison liquid directly enveloped his entire body. Under the corrosion, the face and chest of this level 46 war venerable began to fester, and he fell off his horse while howling miserably. Lin Muyu suddenly pulled the reins, turned around, and took advantage of the situation to sweep her sword across. The sharp prairie fire sword slashed open Xinglan's neck, and blood flowed out. After struggling for a while, he stopped moving. Xinglan was dead. The other mercenaries were dumbfounded. They brandished their weapons and wanted to attack, but two of them were killed by the demonic noise blade. Lin Muyu didn't dare to move his left arm, and carefully circulated his true qi to dissolve Xinglan's ice force. Chu Yao leaped onto a warhorse at the side, and with a raise of her hand, a few silver needles flew out, blinding the eyes of a few mercenaries. This kid killed Captain Xinglan. Little bastard. A mercenary wielding a battle axe roared in anger as he raised his battle axe and charged forward. Lin Muyu placed her long sword horizontally on the back of her horse and raised her hand to unleash a demonic sonic punch. Under the impact of the sound waves, the mercenary spat out blood and died. Even the surrounding mercenaries didn't understand what had happened. Only a 50-year-old veteran soldier's face paled. That's demonic sonic punch. Heavens, this kid knows the fire cauldron Chu-Chu's secret technique. Perhaps no one knew who Lin Muyu was, but everyone knew of the fire cauldron Chu-Chu. This name was already very famous in the continent. As long as one was a cultivator of the empire, there was no one who didn't know who Chu-Chu was. Moreover, there was no one who didn't know how unparalleled the might of Chu-Chu's fire cauldron martial soul was. We can't kill them. Let's go. A mercenary with a longbow quickly retreated. The other mercenaries also retreated, but in the process, they fell off their horses one after another. This was the effect of the clear breeze intoxication. Lin Muyu originally planned to use her treasure carving bow to kill a few people, but the coldness on her arm couldn't be dispelled. She couldn't pull the bow with both hands, so she could only give up. Looking at the corpses on the ground, she didn't say anything. She pulled the reins and said, "Sister Chu Yao, let's go. They'll catch up soon. We can't stay here for too long." You, what about your arm?" Chu Yao urged her horse over. She quickly took out 2 silver needles and sealed 2 acupuncture points on his arm. Then she said, "You just need to circulate your qi to expel the coldness." The sky was filled with stars, and the starlight shone on the Gale Ridge. The two hurriedly prepared to leave, but at this moment, a blood-red shadow suddenly appeared in the darkness. Chu Yao couldn't help but be surprised. "What is that?" Lin Muyu's heart turned cold. Not good, it's a swift wolf. Let's go. Sure enough, in the next moment, countless swift wolves came down from the mountain. The leading wolf was a huge wolf with a patch of white on its head. It looked much stronger than the other swift wolves. Lin Muyu only needed one glance to determine that this wolf had at least 1,000 years of cultivation. The other swift wolves were mostly around 100 years, but there were too many of them. If they were really surrounded, they would most likely die. They urged their horses to leave quickly. Behind them, the pack of wolves was already biting and devouring the corpses of the mercenaries that died in battle. Xing Lan was a famous expert in this area. Who would have thought that her body would be devoured by the swift wolves after her death? This was really retribution. Roar! Just half a minute after Lin Muyu and Chu Yao urged their horses to leave, the leading wolf suddenly howled. The other swift wolves also let out howls. Then, the sound of the pack of wolves could be heard. Oh no, they don't want to let us go. Chu Yao clenched her teeth. Lin Muyu quickly circulated her power to force the cold energy on her shoulder away. She said, "Don't worry about anything. Hurry up and leave. I'll bring up the rear. As long as I force out the cold energy that Xing Lan left behind, these swift wolves definitely won't be able to hurt us." Chu Yao urged her horse forward, but she wasn't willing to overtake Lin Muyu. She just stood shoulder to shoulder with him. The sound of the swift wolves running behind them became more and more frequent. They could even hear their panting. The swift wolves were one of the fastest spiritual beasts in the forest. How could the speed of the war horses be compared to them? In a few minutes, they could see the figures of the swift wolves in the forest under the starlight. Chu Yao glanced back and took out 2 silver needles from her robes. With a whoosh, she tossed them out. In the next instant, the 2 swift wolves howled miserably as they rolled around in the shrubbery. They had been blinded by the silver needles and were no longer able to continue their chase. But with 2 dead wolves, the rest of the swift wolves became even more violent. This was especially so for the leading wolf. Its speed was so fast that it was less than 10 meters away from them. Lin Muyu's left arm was still unable to move. She had no choice but to return her sword to its sheath. Then, she raised her hand and threw out a demonic sonic punch. Pung! The wind from the punch landed heavily on the face of the leading wolf. However, the leading wolf was a spiritual beast with more than 1,000 years of cultivation. It was only injured but not killed. With a trace of blood on its face, it continued to chase. Lin Muyu didn't hold back either. She threw out a few more demonic sonic punches, causing the leading wolf's face to be covered in blood. Even its skull had been shattered. At this moment, a howl suddenly came from the side of the forest. 2 huge wolves pounced out. "Be careful!" Lin Muyu hurriedly shouted. He didn't expect the swift wolves to be so cunning and know how to outflank them. Chu Yao saw it clearly. She spurred her horse forward and stood in front of Lin Muyu. Her purple marten martial soul came out and a ball of flame struck one of the huge wolves. However, the other wolf had already leaped onto the horse's back. Its sharp claws tore open the warhorse's butt, causing blood to flow. It opened its mouth and bit towards Chu Yao's back. After all, Chu Yao was already at the first level of the Earth realm. She was very agile. The moment her shoulder was bitten by the wolf's teeth, she stabbed the dagger in her right hand into the wolf's neck. Pooh! Another wolf's corpse fell to the ground. Lin Muyu frowned. "Is it badly injured?" Chu Yao shook her head. "It's fine. Let's go." At this moment, the alpha wolf leaped and pounced towards Lin Muyu's back like lightning. Black tortoise shell. While on the horse, he immediately summoned his martial soul. The dark red azure gourd came out of his body and the black tortoise shell's flame energy quickly gathered. With a bang, the pouncing alpha wolf was repelled. Lin Muyu took the opportunity to strike the alpha wolf's head with lightning strike. Crack! A sword mark could be seen through the alpha wolf's eyes. Its skull was almost completely split open. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. However, the alpha wolf's vitality was so tenacious that it continued to roar and chase. A trace of warmth came from her left arm. Lin Muyu was immediately overjoyed. The cold energy left by Xing Lan had been completely expelled from her body. He opened his hand and grabbed the carved bow. Then, he turned around and fiercely shot the arrow. He poured his real chi into the arrow, and with a whoosh sound, the arrow shot into the eyes of the chieftain wolf like a falling meteor. Ao, the arrow pierced through the eye and into the brain. This time, the alpha wolf couldn't continue to chase. It howled miserably and rolled on the ground. It definitely wouldn't survive. With the alpha wolf dead, the other swift wolves didn't dare to continue chasing. They seemed to have realized that the two in front of them were very terrifying. If they continued to chase, they might lose their lives. Not daring to stop, the two continued to gallop north in the mountains. They didn't stop and ran like this for the whole night. They didn't know how far they were from Scorching Wind Mountain, but at least they could be sure that the mercenaries of Scorching Wind Mountain might not be able to catch up to them. A faint pain came from his shoulder. Lin Muyu urged the horse to gallop slowly and opened up the wound. Xing Lan's spear had almost pierced through his shoulder. The injury was very serious. Chu Yao felt sorry for him. Thus, she tore a strip of cloth from her skirt and bandaged it for him. Chu Yao's shoulder had also been bitten by the swift wolves. She bit on one end of the cloth and bandaged it herself. Lin Muyu couldn't help but blush with shame. Over the past few days, Chu Yao had really changed from that weak herb-gathering girl to a true warrior. While bandaging the wound, Chu Yao raised her head and looked at him. She smiled. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." He quickly turned his face away. Chu Yao giggled. "Idiot." Although he felt that he had been scolded, Lin Muyu felt a faint warmth in his heart. A few hundred miles away from the Seven Stars Forest. The dragon-seeking forest was a deep forest around the capital, Lanyan City. The dragon-seeking forest was filled with demonic beasts. It was every cultivator's dream paradise. However, this forest was completely protected by the capital's military. Only special cultivators or nobles could enter to search for the spiritual beasts they needed. Thud, 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 the intense sound of hooves broke the silence of the dragon-seeking forest. A few hundred cavalrymen were galloping on a small path in the forest. At the front was a beautiful young lady in a dark red cloak. She had an anxious expression on her face as she galloped along the way. "Princess, slow down." A guard caught up to her and said, "The mountain path is rugged, and there are many ferocious beasts in the dragon-seeking forest. Don't wander around recklessly. Otherwise, you won't be able to save that brat called Lin Muyu. You might even lose your life." Tang Xiaoxi's heart was in a mess. She couldn't help but close her eyes. She didn't want to think about what would happen if Lin Muyu couldn't escape the pursuit of the seven martial saints. At this moment, a bird's cry suddenly came from the sky. A white bird quickly descended from the sky. The guard hurriedly raised his hand and took the letter from the bird's leg. He said, "It's a letter from Silver Fir City. Is there any news?" Tang Xiaoxi didn't wait for the guard to read it. She raised her hand and snatched the letter. There were only 3 lines of words on it. One of the 7 martial saints, Guan Yang, was killed while pursuing Lin Muyu. One of the 7 martial saints, Yi Liang, was killed while pursuing Lin Muyu. Don't worry, princess. He's still alive. Chapter 42. Bang! Hu Tianning, the governor of Cangnan province, flew into a rage and shouted in a low voice, "What did you say? Say it again." He slammed his palm heavily on the desk made of black wood, causing the teacups and documents to fall to the ground. A messenger knelt on one knee in front of him, trembling with fear, said, "Your Excellency, the soldiers of the Flying Mount camp found the bodies of Guan Yang and Yi Liang in the Seven Stars Forest. Guan Yang's death was very similar to Hua Tian's. Yi Liang was poisoned and died with his throat cut. His warhorse and weapons were all taken away. A bunch of good-for-nothings, a bunch of good-for-nothings. Hu Tianing's face was ferocious, and he kept inhaling cold air. After a while, he said, "Is the flying mount camp still chasing us?" "Yes, but we were attacked by several spirit beasts on the way and lost some men and horses." "How many men and horses were lost?" 300. They encountered a giant python at least 4,000 years old, bastard. Hu Tianing slammed the table again and said, "If I don't kill Lin Muyu, I, Hu Tianing, am not worthy of being the governor of Cangnan province. Write a letter to General Xiang Yu immediately and ask him to set up an inescapable net outside Lanyan City. Once we capture Lin Muyu, we can execute her on the spot." Yes, on the 9th day of exile, in the Seven Stars Forest. Chu Yao was washing and changing clothes by a clear stream, while Lin Muyu was herding horses. She opened the map and looked at the marks on it. She frowned and said, "This map. I really don't understand it, but we should not be far from the territory of Lanyan City. We can enter the dragon-seeking forest outside Lanyan City in 1 day at most." "Sister Chu Yao, are we going to enter the dragon-seeking forest?" "Yes." Chu Yao wiped the sweat on her forehead and said with a smile, "We are wanted by Cangnan province, so most of the people who want to kill us are also from Cangnan province. Lanyan City is the center of the empire and doesn't belong to any province. As long as we enter the dragon-seeking forest, those wandering mercenaries who want to kill us will be afraid, at least they won't kill so openly." "That's good. Let's go to the dragon-seeking forest immediately after dinner." In order to avoid killing as many people as possible, Lin Muyu chose to escape through the least populated areas. That way, she hadn't met anyone for 2 days, so she wouldn't meet any mercenaries. The food for lunch was very simple. It was still meat soup, but Chu Yao looked at the stream with a sullen expression. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu asked her with a smile. Chu Yao frowned and said, I've been on the run for so long, but I haven't taken a bath, is that so?" Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. As a man, he didn't care if his body smelled or not when he was on the run for his life. Chu Yao was a girl after all. She wasn't as careless as him. "Then big sister Chu Yao can go wash up. I'll wait for you here," he said. Chu Yao nodded with a smile. "I'll take a bath at the hilltop. I'll be back soon." "All right, just shout when you're in danger." "Yes." Lin Muyu continued to boil the meat soup in the pot, while Chu Yao carried a change of clothes. The fragrance of the meat soup was getting stronger and stronger. It was still venison. Not long after, Lin Muyu's stomach was growling non-stop. Just as he was considering whether or not to secretly eat a piece of meat, he suddenly heard Chu Yao scream from the other side of the hill. Something had happened. He quickly rushed over with his sword in hand. Falling star steps made him rush over like a gust of wind. Sweeping over the hilltop, he saw Chu Yao's snow-white body in the stream. She had her back to Lin Muyu, splashing water as she retreated. She shouted, "Go away! Go away!" There was something in the water. Lin Muyu took a big stride forward and leaped into the water. Her sword flashed and the sharp sword chi pierced through the water. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere. In the next moment, the 2 halves of the water snake's corpse floated up to the surface. Lin Muyu was stunned. Although this water snake was much bigger than ordinary water snakes, it was still harmless to humans and animals, right? Behind him, Chu Yao hugged him tightly. She was so scared that her whole body trembled. "Is it dead? Dead?" Lin Muyu wanted to cry. "Big sister Chu Yao, this is just an ordinary snake. It can't even be considered a spirit beast. You're at the first level of the earth realm. How could you be scared by a snake?" Chu Yao pursed her red lips and said pitifully, I'm naturally afraid of squirming things, especially snakes. So when I'm scared, I even forget about my cultivation, as she spoke, she blushed and said, I'm not wearing any clothes. I know, I saw it. What? You saw it? Chu Yao's little heart beat violently. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, Big sister Chu Yao's back is still very beautiful. I won't look at the front. Sink your body into the water. I'll go back now. You should come back quickly to eat too. Okay. Chu Yao slowly lowered her body, while Lin Muyu leapt up and whizzed past the mountain ridge without looking back. Silly boy, Chu Yao looked at his back. She didn't know if she was happy or disappointed. Not long after, Chu Yao came over in a new set of clothes. Her short hair was still a little wet. Lin Muyu looked up and said with a smile, Big sister Chu Yao is indeed a real beauty. Chu Yao blushed. Of course. Hurry up and eat, or the beauty will starve into an old lady. You're asking for a beating, brat. Chu Yao was extremely shy. The two of them quickly ate and then cleaned up the scene. They got on their horses and continued to move forward. Because they had 2 horses, their speed was not slow. A day later, they arrived at the edge of the 7 Stars forest. An ancient stone tablet was engraved with the words, Dragon-Seeking Forest. Lin Muyu rode past and said with a smile, Finally, we're coming to the legendary capital, Lanyan City. Chu Yao couldn't help laughing. You're dreaming. The dragon-seeking forest almost surrounds the entire Lanyan City. It's very vast. We've only arrived at the dragon-seeking forest. It'll take at least 3 days to enter Lanyan City. Besides, we won't go to Lanyan City. Don't forget that we're felons of the Empire now. There must be our portraits in Lanyan City. Well, we won't go. Let's stay in the dragon-seeking forest. We can come out again after a long time. Okay. As night fell, it seemed that it was no longer necessary to travel quickly. Therefore, the two of them found a call in the mountain range on the border between Sangnan province and the capital as a camp. Lin Muyu set up a simple tent so that Chu Yao had a place to lie down. She picked up dry firewood, raised a bonfire, and cooked the meat soup. The night breeze was exceptionally quiet. Taking advantage of the night, he practiced a set of magic noise fist, then practiced the routine of magic noise saber, and then practiced the wind-riding swordsmanship with his sword. Chu Yao sat on a rock and watched him practice with a smile. This diligent little junior brother really surprised her. Watching him practice seemed to have become a kind of enjoyment for Chu Yao. Gulp. Gulp, the aroma of the meat soup filled the air. Chu Yao giggled and said, It's time to eat. Okay. Lin Muyu smiled slightly and stopped practicing. However, at this moment, he suddenly sensed 2 extremely strong forces entering the surrounding area. He quickly rushed over and covered Chu Yao's small mouth, saying, Someone's coming. As he said that, he carried her waist and landed in the grass not far away in a few leaps. He hid in the grass and looked at everything in the distance. At the same time, he lowered his voice and said, Lower your aura and strength. Don't use your martial arts. It's best if you can hold your breath. Try not to emit your strength and aura. Chu Yao did as she was told. It was not difficult for her to do this with her meticulous mind. Lin Muyu also stopped breathing and lowered his strength to the lowest state, just like an ordinary person. This way, it would be difficult for others to sense his presence. A few minutes later, 2 figures flew down from the mountain range at an astonishing speed. These 2 people's movement techniques were not bad. Their walking speed was comparable to riding a horse. Moreover, the 2 of them looked exactly the same. It was just that their weapons were different. One was holding a longbow and the other was holding a snake spear. Their faces were filled with ruthlessness and killing intent. Found them. The person holding the snake spear said in a low voice, Brother, don't act rashly. They should be in the tent. The person holding the bow sneered, Ren too, wait for Big Brother to make a few holes in them. Have a taste of my 4 consecutive arrows. Okay. The person holding the bow quickly took out an arrow from his quiver. With a "so" sound, he went straight to the tent. With lightning speed, he took out 3 arrows in a row and shot them one by one. With a "pu-pu" sound, 4 transparent holes appeared on the tent. This kind of cultivation was indeed very shocking. He could be considered as an extraordinary cultivator in archery. The person holding the spear roared and rushed over. The spear fiercely smashed down and raged with flames. Pung! The tent was instantly torn into pieces and completely turned into a pile of ashes. They're not here? The person holding the bow was stunned. They couldn't have already left, right? Continue to chase. Okay. The 2 of them shot out like lightning. Their movements were so agile that it was somewhat shocking. When the 2 of them disappeared from sight, Lin Muyu let out a sigh of relief and said, "Who are these people?" Chu Yao took a deep breath. "Ah. Twin cultivators. They should be the twin saints of the 7 martial saints. Let's hurry and get the horses. We can't stay here for the night." Okay. The 2 of them quickly went to get the horses. This time, Lin Muyu was vigilant. Her spirit sense was spread out in all directions and she suddenly felt the aura in the distance increase rapidly. She hurriedly said, "Sister Chu Yao, be careful. They're back." As she said this, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. Lin Muyu hurriedly pushed out with her palm. The black tortoise shell surged in front of her. Keng keng keng, 3 consecutive shots were fired. The 3 arrows shot by the opponent were all deflected. This time, she was not ambushed. In the darkness, 2 people slowly walked over. The person holding the bow laughed coldly. "The legendary Lin Muyu does have some ability. You were actually able to dodge my 3 consecutive shots. You really are not simple." Dang. Lin Muyu pulled out the burning prairie sword and said indifferently, "Who are you?" The person holding the bow laughed coldly. "One of the 7 martial saints, Song Bafu." The person holding the spear also laughed. "One of the 7 martial saints, Song Rentu." Chapter 43. Cool breeze intoxication. I'll buy you some time. Lin Muyu's soft voice drifted into Chu Yao's ears along with the wind. Chu Yao did as he was told and quietly poured a bottle of cool breeze intoxication on the grass. Coincidentally, he was in a good position, so the smell of the cool breeze intoxication drifted towards the 2 of them, but they didn't seem to notice it at all. 7 martial saints again? Lin Muyu frowned and didn't draw his sword. He just stood there quietly and said, "Ever since I left Silver Fir City, I haven't offended anyone. Actually, there's no need for you to hunt me down like this. If there's anything valuable on me, I'll naturally give it to you too. The only thing I want right now is to stay alive." He said so much just to buy time. After all, he was still injured. His chest was pierced by Yi Liang's arrow, and he hadn't even fully recovered when he was stabbed by the Scorching Wind mercenary team's leader. Both of them were powerful enemies. Song Rentu and Song Bafu both had a faint aura around their bodies, which proved that they were battle saints above level 50. One of them was already very difficult to deal with, but with 2 of them, Lin Muyu didn't stand a chance at all. Therefore, he had to wait for the cool breeze intoxication to take effect, and this process would take at least 5 minutes. Is that so? Song Bafu slowly drew his longbow and placed 2 arrows on the bowstring. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Is there anything on you that's more valuable than this head on your neck?" "Of course there is." Lin Muyu's heart almost jumped out of his throat. He raised his hand and pulled out 4 flying knives from his waist. With a light breath of true energy, the flying knives immediately spiraled in his palm and combined into a 4-wheeled flying knife. He smiled and said, "Look, this is the weapon that Fire Cauldron Chu Chu gave me. It's a type of hidden weapon called the demonic noise knife. It's a weapon inherited from a famous general, Feng Yicheng. You too should have heard of Feng Yicheng's great name, right? Brat, don't be delusional. Do you think you can fool us?" Song Rentu raised his spear and lightly said, I think you're just trying to stall for time. Feng Yicheng is a famous general, a pillar of the empire. How could his weapon be in the hands of a nobody like you? Believe it or not, it's up to you. Anyway, Fire Cauldron Chu Chu gave it to me, and Fire Cauldron Chu Chu is Feng Yicheng's best friend. Lin Muyu's voice rose by a decibel. Song Bafu wavered. Is it really Feng Yicheng's weapon? How could it be fake? Lin Muyu smiled slightly and raised the long sword in her right hand, saying, "This sword's name is Prairie Fire, and it came from one of the 7 martial saints, Yi Liang. You should have heard of it, right?" Song Renta's eyes turned cold as he said, "Brat, you really did kill Yi Liang and took his warhorse and weapon." Although these 2 brothers were also 2 of the 7 martial saints, they could not compare to Yi Liang's family background. Yi Liang could be said to be extremely wealthy, so it was not a problem at all for him to purchase a soul-refined Prairie Fire sword. However, Song Rentu and Song Bafu were born as commoners, so it was like a dream for them to own a soul-refined weapon like this. Their weapons were at most superior. It really is Prairie Fire. Song Bafu's eyes were already filled with greed as he licked his lips and laughed. You can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. Legend has it that Prairie Fire sword is a grade 3 spirit weapon, and it's actually in this brat's hands. Little brother, we've struck it rich this time. This Prairie Fire sword can be sold for at least 10,000 Jin coins. Ha ha ha, don't be in such a hurry. Lin Muyu laughed and sheathed the Prairie Fire sword, saying, I haven't even said that I'm going to give it to you guys. Song Renta's eyes flashed with fierceness as he laughed. That's not up to you. Do you want to give it to us or not? When us 2 brothers cut off your and this little girl's heads, naturally these treasures will belong to us. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh, saying, Do you really think you can beat me? As he spoke, he suddenly let out a low roar and the martial spirit gourd came out of his body. Song Rentu couldn't help but laugh. Oh, so it's a grade 10 green gourd. A support-type martial spirit actually dares to be so ostentatious. Brat, the martial spirit you revealed really scared Grandpa to death. Is that so? The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up into a smile as he slowly increased the strength of his true energy and poured it into the martial spirit. The green gourd's color rapidly changed from green to silver, then to blue, and finally to red. This was the transformation of the 4 levels of power, and at the same time, this also meant that the martial spirit had obtained 4 skills. How is this possible? Song Bafu's mouth opened wide. This brat's martial spirit is only at the 4th level, but he actually absorbed 4 martial spirit skills? 1 skill per level, how is this possible? Even the strongest martial god of the empire wouldn't have this kind of luck, right? Of course, there was a chance for the martial spirit to absorb skills. Some experts with great attainments not only had absolute strength, but luck was also a very important factor. People with extremely good luck could absorb skills in succession and increase their cultivation by a large margin. This was also the reason why Song Bafu was so shocked. It's not over yet. Lin Muyu seemed to be deliberately showing off as he suddenly raised his left hand and struck the air in the distance. With a pang sound, a large boulder was immediately shattered into pieces. His cultivation had long since changed from before. Song Renta's face was filled with shock. He had never seen such a mysterious martial art before. This is... Song Bafu was more knowledgeable and his eyes turned cold. Demonic Sound Fist. This is the Fire Cauldron Chu Chu's unique skill, Demonic Sound Fist. Goddamn brat, did you take the Fire Cauldron Chu Chu as your master? Didn't that old geezer say that he would never accept a disciple in his lifetime? Who are you to the Fire Cauldron Chu Chu? I'm Chu Chu's student. Lin Muyu spoke indifferently. If the 2 of you are really sensible, then hurry up and leave. Take advantage of the fact that I don't want your lives right now. Otherwise, not only will you offend me, but you'll also offend Fire Cauldron Chu Chu. Once he finds out about this, do you think he'll let the 2 of you go? Song Rentu was a bit timid. But Song Bafu's face was filled with greed and determination. He sneered, It doesn't matter, the dead can't talk. Little brother, get ready. Yes. The two summoned their martial spirits. Sure enough, they were of the same origin. The two brothers' martial spirits were black bears, extremely powerful beast spirits. You, be careful. Chu Yao said softly. Lin Muyu gently waved his hand, signaling Chu Yao not to make a move. He can do it himself. Slowly increasing his Jin Qi, the green gourd martial spirit's red luster became more intense. At the same time, gourd vines rose up to protect the outer walls of the gourd, and beyond that was the fiery red-black tortoise shell. This time, Lin Muyu didn't have a choice. 1 against 2, he had to use defensive tactics because the green gourd martial spirit wasn't good at attacking, but with the black tortoise shell, its defense was greatly increased. He needed time. As long as the clear breeze intoxication took effect, he would be able to defeat the two in front of him. But there should still be a minute or two left. Kill! Song Bafu roared, 3 arrows shot out like meteors. The arrows cut through the air in a very clear trajectory, and the power of the black bear martial spirit lingered around the arrows, making them look even more indestructible. Peng peng, 2 loud sounds. Lin Muyu's body trembled slightly, and a crack appeared on the black tortoise shell. Fortunately, the defense was not bad, and it didn't immediately collapse. He quickly raised his hand, and 4 flying knives flew out together. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, with a biting cold killing intent in the air. Song Bafu could only move to dodge with his longbow. He couldn't stand still and shoot arrows. The fiery red-black tortoise shell lingered around Lin Muyu, and he even condensed most of his Jin Qi into a green rock armor close to his skin to protect himself. It was a pity that he didn't see iron pear flower along the way, otherwise, it would be more perfect to refine some stone skin potion. Courting death. Song Rentu shouted, holding a spear and stabbing over. The spear was surrounded by a fiery red flame. From the side, it was a sudden attack. Suddenly, a gap appeared on the black tortoise shell. This Song Rentu's strength was stronger than his brother's. There was a sweet taste in his throat, and Lin Muyu secretly complained. Just one attack was enough to make his qi and blood surge. Such an opponent was indeed very difficult to deal with. In the blink of an eye, the wall of the gourd had been stabbed 7 or 8 times, and it was already full of holes. Puchi. Song Rentu once again made a tricky attack, and instantly broke through the defense of the black tortoise shell. The tip of the spear pierced through 2 layers of the wall formed by the gourd vines, and with a puchi sound, it passed by Lin Muyu's neck, leaving a horrifying bloodstain on his skin. Fortunately, Lin Muyu dodged quickly, or else his throat would have been pierced by the spear. His heart was cold, and his Jin Qi actually produced a sense of powerlessness, and he was almost unable to raise his Jin Qi. At this time, the sound of Chu Yao's silver needles pierced through the air, and landed on Song Rentu's Qi armor one after another, bursting into sparks. Still not dead? Song Rentu burst into laughter, and the sparks on his spear skyrocketed. Ignoring Chu Yao's attack, he aimed at Lin Muyu's chest with a determined strike. Pooh! A hand grabbed the head of the spear, and blood immediately spread. Lin Muyu endured the excruciating pain to prevent the spear from piercing into her chest. At the same time, she raised her sword and slashed at the middle of the spear. With a clang, sparks flew, but the spear could not be cut off. It only left a mark about 1 centimeter deep. The sharpness of the burning prairie sword was not enough to cut this pure iron spear. Die! Song Rentu's face was full of viciousness. With a roar, he straightened the spear, and the tip of the spear slowly pierced into Lin Muyu's chest, about 3 centimeters deep. At the moment of life and death, Lin Muyu felt that a stream of fire was surging in the burning prairie sword. It was the effect of soul refining. When its master was about to die, the beast's soul in the burning prairie sword was trying to save its master. With a bestial roar, the energy of a fierce fire tiger pounced out of the burning prairie sword and pierced through Song Rentu's chest. Pooh! Song Rentu's eyes widened, and he slowly fell backward. A huge bloody hole appeared in his chest. This was the power of a 3rd-stage spiritual weapon. Brother. Song Bafu was shocked, and he hurriedly pulled the longbow. Suddenly, he felt that his vision was blurred, and the Jin Qi in his arms was quickly draining. He could not even pull the bow. What's going on? He was already shocked. Chapter 44. Plop. Song Bafu weakly knelt on the ground. Spirit tools and 100,000 Jinin coins were already in the past. At this moment, there was nothing more important than surviving. In his blurred vision, he saw that his twin brother had already fallen to the ground with a frightening bloody hole in his chest. Song Rentu, dead. Song Bafu could only run for his life. He waved his arms and crawled on the grass, even abandoning the longbow he carried with him. However, his true chi and strength were constantly flowing away in the clear wind drunk, and he didn't even have the strength to crawl and escape. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and sat on the ground. In order to defend against the two experts' attacks, he had almost instantly consumed more than half of his true chi. His martial spirit was seriously injured, so his internal organs were also affected, and his aura was unstable. Chu Yao stood up and probed Song Rentu's aura, saying, "He's dead, what about the other one?" Lin Muyu sat there quietly and said, "We have already killed many people, but if we let Song Bafu escape, he will definitely find an opportunity to take revenge on us. Big sister Chu Yao, you do as you see fit. I am very tired now, and my whole body can't lift an ounce of strength." And the expression in Chu Yao's eyes became more firm and decisive. She stood up and grabbed the spear that was stained with Lin Muyu's blood. She jumped up and directly pierced the back of Song Bafu, who was crawling on the ground. Blood suddenly spurted out, and Song Bafu's body trembled violently under the pain. His limbs danced frantically, but Chu Yao gritted her teeth and quickly used her strength to insert half of the iron spear into the ground, nailing Song Bafu to the ground and letting him wait for death. She slowly turned around, her short hair gently swaying in the night wind. Her face no longer had the innocence and immaturity of a little girl, but instead had a bit more steadiness and determination. Lin Muyu looked up at her speechlessly, but her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. What kind of world made Chu Yao like this? If it wasn't for these people endlessly chasing after them for Jinin coins, perhaps Chu Yao would not be like this now. Of course, the death of Chu Feng's grandfather was also a big blow to Chu Yao. Looking at the soup pot on the side, Chu Yao turned to him and smiled warmly. Fortunately, our dinner was not affected by the battle. Let's eat first. You're injured, how about we leave tomorrow? Lin Muyu nodded, whatever sister says. Okay. After eating and warming up, Lin Muyu leaned against the stone wall and circulated his qi to heal his injuries. Then, he refined some medicine to treat his internal injuries. His injuries were too serious, so he needed to nurse his body to the best of his ability. Otherwise, it would be the end of him if he was left with internal injuries or disabilities. To a martial artist, what was more valuable than a healthy body? He did not cultivate much that night. The main thing he did was to recover from his injuries. Lin Muyu leaned against the stone wall, his mind replaying the many experiences he had experienced in the past few days. After coming to this world, it seemed that killing and being hunted had become a normal thing. He was deeply opposed to killing, but now that there were two corpses lying not far from him, he was actually used to it. Then, he thought of Tang Xiaoxi. What would this beautiful and kind little princess be doing? If she knew that he had become a serious criminal of the empire, how would she react? Suddenly, Tang Xiaoxi's sleeping face under the moonlight appeared in his mind. It was so beautiful and tranquil. She was probably the most beautiful girl he had ever seen in his life. There was a faint burning pain from his wounds. He stopped thinking about it and went to sleep. The vital energy in his body was almost depleted in the battle, so he had to rest and recover as soon as possible. Who knew how many more dangers were waiting for him on the road ahead? In the blink of an eye, it was already dawn. The faint howls of wolves could be heard in the distance in the forest. Suddenly, Lin Muyu woke up from his sleep. There was a faint pain in his heart, but he did not know what had happened. He could only grit his teeth and continue to force himself to sleep, but he could not fall asleep no matter what. At the same time, deep in the dragon-seeking forest, piles of bonfires were burning the last of their energy in a small valley. Almost everyone was asleep, except for 7 or 8 guards who were leaning against a tree with their eyes closed. They had been in the dragon-seeking forest for several days, but there had been no news of Lin Muyu. In fact, everyone wanted to go back to the capital to enjoy life, but the willful little princess was unwilling. The fire danced and flickered on the girl's beautiful face. Tang Xiaoxi was lying in a blanket, which wrapped her delicate body. Her body was slightly shivering. The late night of autumn was very cold, and it was obvious that a blanket was not enough to keep out the cold. She opened her eyes slowly. Her dark eyes were as deep and beautiful as gemstones. She looked at the stars in the sky and suddenly felt very cold. Her heart felt as if it was stabbed by a knife. She sobbed silently, and tears swirled in her eyes. She called out softly, "Mu. Where are you? Don't die, you must wait for me." So. 2 soft sounds came from the night sky, followed by 2 put-ong sounds. 2 guards who were standing guard slowly fell down. There was a black arrow pierced through their hearts. Moreover, it was a steel arrow. A king-level expert who was killed at close range. "Assassin!" Someone shouted. That voice stopped abruptly in the cold night, as if someone's throat had been cut. A cold light flashed in the night. Tang Xiaoxi jumped up in alarm. The fire fox marshal's soul came out of her body, and at the same time, she grabbed the long sword and sheath beside the rock to block. Keng, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. The other party used a long sword, and it was a masked man. Only a pair of emotionless eyes could be seen. When his attack missed, he immediately lowered his body and swept his leg. Tang Xiaoxi gritted her teeth and said angrily, "Who are you people? How dare you sneak attack people from the 7 Seas City's Duke's mansion?" At the same time, she raised her slender snow-white leg. Flames quickly lingered around it, and with a "kacha" sound, she stepped down, directly breaking the assassin's leg sweep. Moreover, with her extraordinary strength, she broke his calf. The assassin did not say a word and turned around to slash again. However, Tang Xiaoxi's speed was even faster. With a flick of her wrist, the scabbard left her hand, and a smear of blood flew out. The assassin's throat had already been slit. Waves of miserable screams came from the surroundings. More than 10 guards quickly approached and shouted, "Protect the princess! Protect the princess!" But the arrows flew out, and people fell one after another. In the blink of an eye, nearly 100 people from the guard camp had died. However, those arrows seemed to have grown eyes, and did not shoot at Tang Xiaoxi. It was as if they were deliberately avoiding her. These people wanted to capture her alive. Tang Xiaoxi's heart was as clear as a mirror. She suddenly opened her arms, and the light of the fire fox rose from the sky, forming a flame impact that swept across the area. Suddenly, 4 assassins fell to the ground and died, howling. "Let's rush out." Tang Xiaoxi was the strongest among this group of guards, so she took the lead to rush out with the others. "Don't let them escape. Capture the princess of 7 Seas City alive." A cold voice came from the mountain ridge on the right, which made Tang Xiaoxi's heart cold. Behind her, a guard with a heavy shield kept blocking the arrows. He raised his true chi and growled, "Who are you people? Why did you sneak attack us?" In the crowd, a masked man laughed loudly, "People who are about to die don't need to know so much." However, Tang Xiaoxi said coldly, "You are from the House of Chivalry, right?" "Oh, as expected of the second most beautiful woman in Lanyan City, Tang Xiaoxi. You are so smart." This trip was not in vain. In the darkness, an unusually sharp voice laughed. "Capture Tang Xiaoxi alive, and you will be rewarded with 500,000 Jin coins. As for those insignificant people, Send them on their way. They are no longer of any value. At least a few hundred people dressed in black with swords in their hands rushed over from all directions. Tang Xiaoxi's heart was cold. She looked at the group of guards apologetically and said with a trembling voice, "I'm sorry. I caused you to lose your lives here. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have acted on my own. I'm sorry." One of the guards had a resolute look in his eyes as he said, "Princess Shi, this isn't your fault. It's just that the House of Chivalry actually dared to target you. They're truly audacious. As long as we kill our way out, the Grand Duke will definitely mobilize his army and flatten every House of Chivalry on this mainland. These bastards are committing treason. Before he could finish speaking, his throat was suddenly pierced by a sharp arrow. He could no longer speak and fell straight to the ground. The strongest among the group of guards was only at the first heaven of the Earth realm. There was no way they could defend against so many people from the House of Chivalry. "Princess, we will cover your retreat. Your fire fox has the ability to increase speed. Moreover, we are in the forest. They definitely won't be able to catch up to you. Let's go." A guard rushed over with his heavy shield. He hid his head under the shield, but his legs were continuously hit by arrows. He staggered and almost fell to the ground again and again, but he still maintained his forward momentum. The other dozen guards also rushed over. They knew that they would die, but there was no other way. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were red. Her heart was filled with regret and hatred. The fire fox martial spirit chirped softly on her shoulder as if it was comforting its little master. In the next moment, Tang Xiaoxi launched another flame strike. She raised her sword and leaped up. The fire fox roared wildly. Flames appeared under her feet. Although her speed was not as fast as Falling Star's steps, it was enough to shake off the House of Chivalry's wanderers. Screams came from behind her. The guards fell to the ground and died. Tang Xiaoxi felt as if thousands of arrows had pierced her heart. Tears fell in the night wind. She rushed in the direction of Lanyan City without looking back. She knew that she could no longer save Lin Muyu. She did not even know if she could make it back alive. The thorns tore through her luxurious clothes and pierced her skin. However, Tang Xiaoxi did not seem to feel any pain. She controlled the fire fox martial spirit and rushed into the distance of the dragon-seeking forest. Behind her, the sounds of people chasing after her did not stop. After the people from the House of Chivalry discovered the fire fox's ability to increase speed, they regretted it. They even shot arrows at her again and again. Pfft! She suddenly felt a burning sensation on her back. Tang Xiaoxi staggered and almost fell to the ground. Her back began to hurt. She had been hit by an arrow. Chapter 45. The dragon-seeking forest was a quiet and deep forest surrounding the imperial capital, Lanyan City. There were many types of spirit beasts in the dragon-seeking forest, and it was said that someone had once seen a spirit beast with a lifespan of 100,000 years in the dragon-seeking forest. That was a powerful existence that only those who had stepped into the godly state could face. However, this was only a legend. However, the dragon-seeking forest was still protected by the imperial army, and commoners were forbidden from entering. Firstly, it was to protect the safety of the commoners, and secondly, the rich resources and spirit beasts in the dragon-seeking forest were all provided to the nobles for their enjoyment. Dragon Forging Valley was a valley in the southwest of the dragon-seeking forest. There lived some spirit beasts that were hundreds or even thousands of years old. This place was also reared by the imperial family, and became the legendary Imperial King's hunting ground. On this day, the Dragon Forging Valley was very lively. Banners fluttered in the wind, covering the sky. Countless armored soldiers gathered here, and the sound of horse hooves shook the entire valley. The army clustered around a group of people dressed in luxurious clothes. In the center, a golden luxurious carriage was parked in the middle of the forest. Even the wheels of the carriage were inlaid with gems in the shape of a dragon and a purpline flower. The dragon symbolized supreme power, and the purple Een flower was the emblem of the Qin family, and also the emblem of the entire empire. Rustle, rustle, the golden-laid curtain of the carriage was slowly lifted, revealing the face of a middle-aged man around 50 years old. His expression was slightly haggard, but he wore a golden crown on his head, and his eyes were sharp. This person was the emperor of the Qin Empire, Radiant Prince Qin Jin. Where did Xiao Yin go? Qin Jin asked indifferently. Beside the carriage, a general riding on a black warhorse cupped his fists and said, "Reporting to your majesty, Her Highness brought a group of guards to chase after a 3,000-year-old umbrella dragon." "Oh, umbrella dragon?" The emperor frowned. "Are there enough guards to go with them? The dragon-seeking forest is so dangerous. Tell Xiao Yin to be careful and not to run out of the hunting ground." "Yes, your majesty." Commander Feng Jixing of the Imperial Army has already personally brought people over. "Your majesty, please be at ease." That's good." Sha sha sha, in the forest, an umbrella dragon was panting as it ran. Its back was riddled with arrows, and it was bleeding profusely. The umbrella dragon was one of the lower ranks of the dragon species. It was also an earth dragon, a type of pseudo-dragon. It was not even considered a true dragon, but this umbrella dragon had already cultivated for 3,000 years. Its head was shaped like an umbrella, with 3 golden veins extending from it. Pooh! The umbrella dragon became even more enraged after being shot in the butt. Its eyes turned fierce as it spat out flames and charged at the attacker. The branches and leaves parted, and a white horse appeared in sight. The girl on the horse was extremely beautiful. She wore a dark blue cloak embroidered with golden dragon patterns. The cloak wrapped around her delicate and exquisite figure, while the hood was casually scattered behind her head, revealing her long black hair. Her delicate face was like carved jade, and the corners of her mouth carried a gentle smile that surpassed thousands of stars. She was like a beautiful piece of jade that had landed in this dangerous forest. "Your Highness, be careful. You are running too fast," the guard behind her shouted. But Qin Yin did not care so much. She spurred her horse and charged at the injured umbrella dragon. She smiled and said, "Little umbrella dragon, surrender obediently, and I will grant you a quick death." The umbrella dragon roared and suddenly leaped into the air. Its sharp claws were covered in flames as it attacked the Empire's princess. Qin Yin was slightly taken aback, but she calmly waved her palm and said, "Still not admitting defeat? God-binding chains." Pung! With a loud bang, golden light shone brightly. A golden chain that was several meters long broke through the ground and directly smashed into the umbrella dragon's abdomen. It actually caused a hole in it. Moreover, the golden chain was surrounded by dense golden runes. Those were ancient characters. The attack power of this martial soul was so shocking that it had long surpassed the understanding of ordinary cultivators. God-binding chains was a first-grade martial soul. It was the inherited martial soul of the Empire's Qin bloodline. Once one comprehended the God-binding chains, it meant that one would become an expert of the generation. And Qin Yin was one of the few descendants of the Qin clan in this generation who had awakened the God-binding chains' martial soul. Roar roar, under the attack of the God-binding chains, the umbrella dragon howled miserably. It did not dare to attack anymore. It twisted its butt and burrowed into the dense forest. It was a thistle forest, and in an instant, its injured scales were cut open with streaks of blood. Seeing that umbrella dragon had run off again, Qin Yin pouted angrily. She quickly turned her horse around, intending to take a detour and chase after him. She said, "Don't go. If you're a real man, stay and fight me for 300 rounds." At this time, a person galloped over on a horse. He was dressed in golden armor and held a shiny broadsword in his hand. He laughed and said, "Your Highness Yin, I've finally found you." The newcomer had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He was extremely handsome, and his entire body was brimming with a very bright heroic spirit. "Oh, it's General Feng." Qin Yin smiled slightly. That umbrella dragon has run away again. I must chase it down today. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't even have the mood to eat dinner. Feng Jixing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, if you don't eat, won't His Majesty be heartbroken? Moreover, we're almost out of the hunting grounds. It's a little dangerous. Don't worry, Your Highness. Why don't you let me help you capture this umbrella dragon alive? Qin Yin's starry eyes swept across his face. She hesitated for a few seconds and said, I don't trust you. How about this? We'll split up. You go from the north, and I'll go from the south. Let's see who can capture this umbrella dragon first. Feng Jixing didn't dare to look at this indescribably beautiful imperial princess in the eye. He hurriedly held his broadsword horizontally and performed an imperial military salute. He said, Yes, Your Highness. This subordinate obeys. Thick brambles blocked the way. The sky was a little dark, and it was almost dusk. Lin Muyu was a little anxious. She carried the burning prairie sword and cut through the brambles to open a path. Suddenly, she turned around and said, Sister Chu Yao, we must pass through here before it gets dark and find a place to rest. According to the marks on the map, we might be able to reach Lanyan City tonight. Chu Yao leisurely rode on a fine horse. Her breath surrounded her body. She slowly opened her beautiful eyes and said with a smile, Don't worry, you. If it's not really necessary, we don't have to enter the imperial city at all. After all, there might still be our notice on the city gate. Lin Muyu touched the stubble on her chin and said with a smile, No, I haven't shaved for so many days. I'm afraid I'm a completely different person from the person on the notice. Sister, you've also cut your hair short. I don't think anyone will recognize us even if we enter the city. Besides, even if they recognize us, we can just deny it. Chu Yao couldn't help but smile. You're getting bolder. Lin Muyu angrily cut through the brambles and said, This is the 11th day of our exile. What I want to do most now is to take a hot bath and then sleep in a warm bed. Sister Chu Yao, don't you want to live a normal life? I want to, but I'm afraid it's an extravagant wish for us now. Chu Yao said quietly. Suddenly, she raised her head again and said with a smile, Your cultivation speed has always been 10 times faster than ordinary people, but after you stepped into the second level of the Earth realm, there hasn't been any movement. How is it? Do you feel like you're about to break through? Lin Muyu nodded. Yes, since yesterday, every time I cultivate, I can't feel the growth of my true qi. I should have reached a bottleneck, but I haven't met a suitable spirit beast, so I can only leave it to fate. It would be great if a suitable spirit beast of 3,000 to 4,000 years came to my door, but my injuries haven't completely healed. If I really meet a spirit beast of 3,000 years or more, I don't seem to be able to beat it. I'm afraid I'll lose my life for nothing. Chu Yao giggled. Then you'll have to cultivate slowly. Many people spend their entire lives cultivating and still can't break through rank 50. You're so young, and you've reached rank 49 in less than a month. In the eyes of ordinary people, you're a genius that only appears once in 10,000 years. Lin Muyu grinned but didn't say anything. In fact, he didn't tell Chu Yao that he was using a cheat. Moreover, he still had a portion of the 7 luminaries' demon emperor's profound energy left behind in his body. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to advance so quickly. Not long after, they passed through the thorny forest. Just as Lin Muyu was about to mount his horse, a wild beast roared in the distance. Unexpectedly, a spirit beast with its head spread open like an umbrella was approaching. That's... he asked with some surprise. But Chu Yao's eyes lit up. I've seen this kind of spirit beast in Kathaya City's library. It's an umbrella dragon. Heavens, 3 golden lines and 2 yin lines on its head. This is a 3,200-year umbrella dragon, and it seems to be injured. Your chance is here. Prepare to attack. Amen. Lin Muyu didn't care if the umbrella dragon was injured or not. She raised her hand and summoned her martial soul. Immediately, gourd vines whooshed across the ground and quickly wrapped around the umbrella dragon. In the next moment, the demonic noise blade flew out and struck 3 times in a row, leaving 3 deep wounds on the umbrella dragon's neck. This umbrella dragon was already on the brink of death. What else could it possibly be unwilling to die? It had died indirectly at the hands of the Empire's princess, but in the end, a brat had appeared out of nowhere to finish it off. At this moment, the umbrella dragon's intestines were turning green with regret. If it had known this would happen, it wouldn't have run away. It would have been better if it had died at the hands of that peerless beauty. Clang! The burning prairie sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu used the star steps and charged forward at top speed. She used the exquisite butterfly steps to dodge the umbrella dragon's sure-kill flame spray. Lightning and fire intertwined on the blade as she slashed down viciously from the side. Gotcha! This time, half of the umbrella dragon's head was crooked. It looked like it was about to be decapitated. Lin Muyu pulled back her long sword and stabbed it violently again. The blade pierced the spirit beast's heart, and a steady stream of fiery energy seeped out and set the grass on fire. The umbrella dragon howled in pain and regret as it knelt before the nameless brat's sword. Chapter 46. Hot flames rose up and hovered above the umbrella dragon's corpse. This was the 3,200-year-old umbrella dragon's beast spirit, which was also the essence of its body. You, hurry up, now. Okay. Lin Muyu quickly summoned his martial soul. The red gourd quickly grew bigger and started to absorb the umbrella dragon's beast spirit greedily. At the same time, Lin Muyu summoned the crafting cauldron. The cauldron turned into an energy form and enveloped Lin Muyu and the spirit beast. Lulu flapped her transparent wings and flew out. She giggled and said, "Brother, it's not easy to completely refine this beast spirit. You still need enough water to cool down the flames in the umbrella dragon's beast spirit." Okay. Lin Muyu turned his gaze and said to Chuyao, "Sister, help me get some water." Okay. They passed by a small stream on their way here. Chuyao immediately took a water bag and went there. 10 minutes later, she returned and poured the water in the water bag into the energy halo in the air. The water moved with the wind and slowly evaporated. It was very novel. Chuyao had seen people refine beast spirits before, but she had never seen Lin Muyu refine it in such a way. The water continued to cool down the rampaging energy within the beast spirit. Lin Muyu opened his arms wide and his Jinqi morphed into a giant hand that moved back and forth within the beast spirit. He wanted to find the most essential part of the beast spirit. Only by refining that part would he be able to obtain the spirit beast skills. After nearly 20 minutes, he finally found a very thick beast spirit. It was very pure. When Lin Muyu tried to grab it, he was hit by a very strong counterattack. Soon, his forehead was covered in sweat, but he did not give up. After nearly 5 minutes of struggle, the power finally surrendered to the crafting cauldron. Phew! Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu opened her eyes. The treasure refining cauldron transformed into a cloud of smoke. The umbrella dragon's beast spirit had been completely refined by her and she had obtained a new skill. Congratulations, brother. This skill is called Dragon Scale Barrier. What do you want to name it? Lulu said with a smile. Let's call it Dragon Scale Wall. Okay. At this time, the gourd had turned orange. Lin Muyu shouted and a thick dragon power surged to the gourd wall. It formed an orange scale defense around the gourd wall. It was the Dragon Scale Wall. This meant that Lin Muyu's defense had increased a lot. The Dragon Scale Wall had to break the Mystic Tortoise shell first and then the Dragon Scale Wall to be able to hurt him. The Dragon Scale Wall was much stronger than the Mystic Tortoise shell. At the same time, he took a deep breath. After raising his chi, he suddenly swung his fist. He felt a mysterious power slowly condensing on his arm, forming a layer of chi armor that protected his right arm. It's the chi armor. Chu Yao said with a smile. Congratulations, you. You've reached the 3rd level of the Earth Realm. You should be a level 50 battle saint now. Lin Muyu was also happy. Happiness came too suddenly. If this umbrella dragon wasn't injured, she probably wouldn't have the chance to subdue it. She might even be eaten by it. At this time, the sound of horse hooves came from afar. A general in golden armor rushed over with a broadsword in his hand. His eyes were fixed on the umbrella dragon's corpse. Feng Jixing dismounted from his horse. His expression was very serious, and his grip on the broadsword tightened. This umbrella dragon, was you the one who killed it? He looked at Lin Muyu coldly. Lin Muyu's expression also became serious. She knew that this person was not a kind person. She couldn't even fathom the aura on his body. It was as if she couldn't see through this person's power. Lin Muyu stepped forward and stood in front of Chu Yao. That's right. I killed it. I've also refined the beast spirit. You've completely refined the 3,200-year-old umbrella dragon's beast spirit? Feng Jixing raised his head and looked at her. He sneered. Not bad. Looks like you're quite lucky. Lin Muyu said, yes, but do you know who this spirit beast belongs to? Feng Jixing's expression changed. You even dare to steal Her Highness Yin's prey. Brat, you're really not afraid of death. Lin Muyu slowly pulled out the burning prairie sword. I'm sorry. I didn't know that this spirit beast was injured because it was being chased. But if you want to kill me, it won't be that easy. Is that so? Feng Jixing smiled. Milky white energy flowed slowly on the blade. The white cloak behind him moved even though there was no wind. This white cloak was very well made. Lin Muyu found it familiar, but she couldn't remember where she'd seen it before. Chu Yao noticed something and said in shock, white true energy, it's battle energy. Heavens, this person can use battle energy. He's a heavenly realm expert. White Do Chi was the symbol of power. All cultivators had to break through level 60 and step into the heaven realm to be able to transform their true Qi into the even more powerful Do Chi. In the Qin Empire, those who could summon Do Chi could already be ranked among the top experts. Feng Jixing's lips curled up. Heavenly Realm level 64, Feng Jixing. Thank you for your guidance. Lin Muyu had already summoned the gourd wall. Earth Realm level 50, Lin Muyu. Please enlighten me. The difference was too great. But he had to fight. For himself and for Chu Yao. The mystic tortoise shell formed inch by inch on the outside of the dragon scale wall. Lin Muyu had used more than 80% of his Jin Qi as a defensive power. He had no intention of defeating his opponent by attacking. The person in front of him had increased his strength rapidly, causing him to feel suffocated. This was a peerless expert that he had never met before, other than Chu Chu. After Feng Jixing channeled his ferocious Do Qi into his broadsword, he immediately advanced, his figure faintly discernible as he chopped down with his sword. However, he hadn't expected that the kid before him would easily dodge it with a flash. Moreover, the kid's footsteps were simply like a falling star, and he didn't hesitate in the slightest. He turned around and slashed with the blade. Pung! The power surged out. Lin Muyu's body trembled. The outer black tortoise shell was instantly shattered. His heart turned cold. This person's speed was too fast, so fast that even falling star steps couldn't dodge it completely. Also, the power of the broadsword was so fierce that one strike shattered the black tortoise shell. Peng peng. Another 2 attacks. Feng Jixing's broadsword fell directly on the dragon scale wall. Lin Muyu's qi and blood surged, and the dragon scale wall began to collapse. The opponent's next attack would definitely kill him, so he had to fight back. Entangle. Stepping on the ground, a gourd vine quickly rose up and wrapped around Feng Jixing's legs. What is this? Feng Jixing was stunned for a moment. After which, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Both of his legs exerted force and he rose from the ground. The biting cold dough chi quickly shattered the gourd vines. However, when he lowered his head, he discovered that a gourd flower was facing him. A feeling of uneasiness immediately rose from the bottom of his heart. He hurriedly brandished the long blade and shouted, "Blade dance." The blade danced quickly, bringing with it a strong wind. It actually stirred up all the poisonous liquid. That was not the end. A sharp whistle sounded in his ears. Feng Jixing's heart turned cold again. How many ultimate moves does this stinking brat have? He suddenly turned around and slashed with his broadsword. Kang! His arm actually felt a little numb. The demonic noise blade was slashed away by his broadsword. His body also suddenly fell down due to gravity. With a swing of his broadsword, he heavily slashed at Lin Muyu's shoulder. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and brazenly raised his left hand. He threw a demonic noise fist through the air. Pung! The true chi of the demonic noise fist surged out. Feng Jixing only felt a sense of suffocation in his chest. However, this kind of attack obviously could not hurt his body that had been tempered 1,000 times. Dang! The broadsword collided with the burning prairie sword. Immediately, Lin Muyu's true chi completely dissipated. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated a few steps. This time, he had lost. Moreover, it was a complete defeat. Feng Jixing's strength was completely overwhelming. He simply did not have the slightest chance. Moreover, Lin Muyu had actually seen that Feng Jixing had not released his martial soul from the beginning to the end. If he had summoned his martial soul to assist him in battle, he was afraid that he would have already been defeated in a single move. Hua! Chu Yao quickly moved forward and spread her arms in front of Lin Muyu. There was no fear in her eyes as she said, "Feng Jixing, if you want to kill you, then kill me first." However, a scene that she and Lin Muyu did not expect happened. Feng Jixing raised his sword and sheathed it. A very bright smile bloomed on his face. I, Feng Jixing, am the commander of the capital's 30,000 Imperial Guards. I am one of the 7 white-robed Imperial Guards. I am known as a man who swears to defend justice. Why would I kill the innocent? Moreover, Chu Yao, you are brother Chu Huayin's biological sister. If I really kill you, it would be strange if that brat doesn't come after me. Chu Yao was dumbfounded. This. How do you know my brother? Feng Jixing laughed. Chu Huayin is now one of the 200 Imperial Guards. He is also one of the top cultivators among them. How could I not know him? He is diligent in his cultivation and has never sent letters to his family. Moreover, he is now in the Imperial Palace. I'm afraid he doesn't know that something has happened to you. Otherwise, with his personality, he would be burning with anxiety. As he spoke, Feng Jixing gazed at Lin Muyu and said, Your strength really isn't bad. It's simply like a miracle that you possess such a cultivation at your age. It's all thanks to you that Chu Yao was able to make it to Lanyan City alive. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said gratefully, Thank you, Brother Feng, for not killing me. Feng Jixing laughed heartily. Even if you call me Brother Feng, I can't kill you. I can't kill a future talent of the Empire. Lin Muyu wanted to say something more, but Feng Jixing seemed to know everything. He said, Say no more. I will send someone to bring you to the capital and arrange everything. As for Silver Fir City, I have already sent a friend to investigate Hua Tian's murder 3 days ago. Everything will come to light and your innocence will be cleared. Lin Muyu was truly grateful this time. She nodded and said, Thank you, Brother Feng. Feng Jixing looked around and said, This is not a place to stay. Hurry up and leave. Someone, bring them back to the capital. Let them stay at White Cloud Tavern. Treat them well and don't let them suffer anymore. I will go find them when I return to the capital. Yes. The Imperial Guard General nodded and said to Lin Muyu, Young hero, please follow me. We will take the small path back to the capital. All right. After Lin Muyu and the rest left, Feng Jixing pulled out his battle sword and split open the umbrella dragon's head. He found a bloody spirit stone and smiled. With you around, I can answer to Her Highness Yin. Sigh, you is really something. Of all the spirit beasts he could have snatched, he had to snatch Her Highness Yin's. If Her Highness finds out the truth, you will suffer. He shook his head helplessly and put the spirit stone into his robes. He said slowly, Chu Huaying, you little brat, you owe me a favor again. It's time for you to treat me to a drink again. This time, I want to drink the most expensive wine in the capital. Humph, it's your fault for pretending to be drunk last time. Chapter 47. A cool breeze ruffled the branches and leaves on the treetops. Feng Jixing, dressed in a white robe, galloped away on horseback. A group of imperial cavalry followed behind him. The broadswords in his hands glowed with a faint glow of fighting spirit. Although the warhorses were galloping, the sound of their hooves was not very loud. In terms of horsemanship, Feng Jixing could already become one with his steed. He could be said to be the best in the imperial capital. In the dense forest, there was a towering tree that was at least 1,000 years old. Under the tree, the empire's eldest princess, Qin Yin, was holding the reins of her steed. She pouted as she kicked the gravel on the ground. The few guards beside her had ugly expressions on their faces. After losing the umbrella dragon, Her Royal Highness was in a bad mood. No one dared to provoke her. Feng Jixing dismounted and knelt down on one knee. He said respectfully, Your Highness, I have returned. Qin Yin smiled and asked, General Feng, did you catch the umbrella dragon? I did. Feng Jixing nodded and said, Unfortunately, the umbrella dragon was too heavily injured. When I found it, it was already gone. The beast spirit had also dispersed. I had no choice but to plunder its spirit stone and bring it back to Your Highness. I hope that this spirit stone will be useful for Your Highness' cultivation. Qin Yin looked at the spirit stone in Feng Jixing's hands and her beautiful eyes swept over him. She smiled and said, All right, General Feng, you have worked hard. I will accept this spirit stone. Thank you. Feng Jixing smiled slightly. It is my greatest honor to be able to satisfy Your Highness. It is getting late. Your Highness, let's go back early. His Majesty must be waiting anxiously. We still have to rush back to Lanyan City before nightfall. All right. This continent was known as the Broken Cauldron Realm, meaning that the cauldrons of the world were broken. However, due to the conquest and governance of Qin's first sage, Qin Yi, for hundreds of years, he finally built the Qin Empire, an unprecedented alliance of empires. The territory of the Shattered Cauldron Realm was divided into the north and the south. In the middle, there was a long corridor of mountains that divided the continent into the north and the south. It was known as the Qinling Mountains. To the south of the Qinling Mountains was the fertile land of the Lingnan. The land was fertile, and there were many products. It was extremely affluent. To the north of the Qinling Mountains, the weather was slightly colder. There were mountains everywhere, and in between the mountains, there were many prosperous cities. The most vast and flat land in the north of the mountains was the dragon-seeking forest. The dragon-seeking forest stretched for thousands of miles, surrounding a city that symbolized the imperial power, Lanyan City. Lanyan City was the most prosperous of the 7 famous cities in the empire. The city walls were more than 50 meters high, and they were all built with cyan boulders. They were very sturdy and could be said to be impervious to fire and water. The city was prosperous in commerce and rich in products. It was the economic and political center of the empire. Among them, the Divine Temple, which was respected by all martial artists, and the Spiritual Medicine Department, which was sought after by everyone in the alchemy world, were both located in Lanyan City. This showed how important this city was to the entire empire. The sound of horses' hooves was very soft. Before dusk, Lin Muyu and Chu Yao finally arrived at Lanyan City. Lin Muyu's chin was already densely covered with a fine beard, while Chu Yao had cut her hair short. She looked nothing like the person on the wanted notice at the city gate. Moreover, they were accompanied by a general of the imperial army. This general was called Luo Lai, and he was a trusted aide of Feng Jixing. Luo Lai was dressed in a dark blue uniform of the empire. The military rank on his collar was inlaid with a golden-purple flower and a star. This was the standard military rank insignia of the empire's Chiliarch. General. The officer on duty at the city gate saluted Luo Lai respectfully, then looked at Lin Muyu and Chu Yao, and said, "These two don't look like soldiers of the imperial army." "General, who are they?" Luo Lai's tone was calm, and he said with authority, "These two are friends of General Feng. They have just come to the imperial capital from Qihai City as guests." "Do they also need to be inspected?" "Ah, no need, no need. Since they are honored guests of General Feng, then there's no need." The officer on duty was only a small centurion, so he naturally didn't dare to challenge the Chiliarch. The smoothness of the situation surprised Lin Muyu. They actually easily sneaked into Lanyan City. There were shops on both sides of the city's main street, and the smell of meat buns floated into their noses. It was very tempting. Lin Muyu's stomach also growled. Chu Yao couldn't help but giggle. "Hungry?" "Yes." He nodded awkwardly. "The taste of these buns is really good." Chu Yao laughed softly. "There's no hurry. Let's talk about it when we arrive at the White Cloud Inn." Luo Lai also laughed. "Speaking of buns, the best buns in the entire Lanyan City are the White Cloud Inn's flour beef buns. You too will be able to taste them in a while. The commander will probably come to visit you later. I'll settle you down first." "Yes, thank you, Lord Luo Lai." "You're welcome. You are the commander's friends, which means you are my friends. It's only right." Soon, they arrived at the White Cloud Inn. This was a 3-story inn. It didn't look very luxurious, but it was probably not bad. At least, the faint smell of meat coming from the inn was enough to attract Lin Muyu. Luo Lai arranged for 2 guest rooms next to each other. Then, he took out a Jinin coin and treated the 2 of them to a good meal. Not long after, 2 steamers of buns were served. There were also some sauce, vinegar, and other seasonings on the side. When the steamer was opened, the fragrance that assailed their nostrils almost killed Lin Muyu. She picked up a white bun, and when she broke it open, she could see the light purple petals that emitted a unique fragrance. Then, there was the delicious beef. What was rare was that the meat and the flour didn't clash at all. Instead, they complemented each other. It was very unique. Luo Lai laughed and said, "The purple petals are flour, the flour of the empire. This kind of flour can be used as medicine or as a dish. It has the effect of reducing inflammation and relieving fatigue. The beef here is made from the best beef. The meat is fresh and tender. Try it." Lin Muyu took a bite without hesitation. She immediately felt as if she was floating. Just one bite made her fall in love with this kind of bun. She didn't stand on ceremony and quickly swept the steamer of buns. On the other hand, Chu Yao ate very reservedly. She wasn't like Lin Muyu. In fact, Lin Muyu's stamina consumption was much greater than Chu Yao's. After eating and drinking to their fill, Luo Lai accompanied her and waited for Feng Jixing to arrive. But even when the sky darkened, there was still no wind. It was not until the hour of Su that night that the sky was completely dark. At this time, a person rushed over. He was an extremely handsome young man dressed in green. With a leap, he gracefully went up to the 2nd floor. His expression was extremely hurried as he looked around and said urgently, "Yao." "Ah, Yao." When Chu Yao heard this voice, her entire body trembled. She turned around, and their eyes met. Tears immediately flowed out of her eyes. "Brother," the person who came was Chu Yao's brother, Chu Huayin. When Chu Yao threw herself into Chu Huayin's arms, her tears fell like rain. Her fists continuously landed on her brother's shoulders. Her cultivation was not low now, and her fists were extremely powerful when she was angry. However, Chu Huayin didn't circulate his energy to defend himself and allowed his sister to hit him. "Why didn't you return to Silver First City?" Chu Yao was tired, and her tears flowed freely. She looked at her brother and said, "Don't you know that Grandpa was killed by bad people? You're still hiding here. What kind of brother are you?" Chu Huayin's eyes were red, but he didn't cry. He only clenched his fists and supported Chu Yao with one hand. He said, "Yao, I was wrong. I've always been immersed in cultivation in the imperial capital. I didn't think that so many things would happen in Silver First City, and I definitely didn't think that Grandpa would be assassinated. I'm sorry, Yao. Don't cry, don't cry. I'll always be by your side from now on." Chu Yao cried even more fiercely. After a long time, Chu Yao finally wiped away her tears and turned around to hold Lin Muyu's hand. She said, "Brother, let me introduce you to you. He's Grandpa's alchemy apprentice, but he's very talented. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to live to see you again." Chu Huayin looked at Lin Muyu, his eyes filled with gratitude and suspicion. He said, It must have been hard on you to get to Lanyan City, but, did you really kill Yi Liang, Guan Yang, and the others of the legendary 7 martial saints?" Look. Lin Muyu knew what he wanted to say, so she said, "I don't look that strong, right?" "Yes." Chu Huayin revealed a trace of embarrassment, as if he also knew that he was being rude by questioning her. Lin Muyu didn't mind and said, "Along the way, I used hidden weapons, poison, and everything I could think of. That's why I was able to make it here alive. You should understand now, right?" Chu Huayin nodded and patted his shoulder. "Good brother, it must have been hard on you." "It's nothing." Lin Muyu thought of how he had been shot through the chest by an arrow in the 7-star forest and how he had narrowly escaped death time and time again. He couldn't help but feel his heart palpitate. Now that he thought about it, it was great that he was still alive. At this time, footsteps came from the stairs. They were abnormally steady, and a white-robed figure walked over. Feng Jixing had finally arrived. Chu Huayin cupped his fists and smiled. "Brother Feng, thank you. I can't thank you enough." "Oh, you've reunited?" Feng Jixing's lips curled into a mocking smile. "Brother Chu, you really are a heartless fellow. How could you be at ease leaving such a beautiful little sister alone in Kathaya City? If it were me, I would have brought her to live in the imperial capital a long time ago. I've helped you so much this time. You should at least treat me to a drink at Tingyu Tower." Chu Huayin's expression turned ugly. A drink at Tingyu Tower costs at least 20 Jin coins. That's too extravagant. Let's just stay at White Cloud Tavern, you're so stingy. I only get a salary of 10 Jin coins every month. How can it compare to you, a commander of the Imperial Guard and a second-rank Guardian General? What's the point of saying all this? Let's drink to our heart's content downstairs. All right. Chu Huayin acted as the host and set up a table of wine downstairs. Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Yao, and Luo Lai sat around the table. Chu Yao's mood finally improved and she was willing to eat again. Lin Muyu hadn't had a good meal these past few days in the dragon-seeking forest and 7-star forest. Naturally, she ate to her heart's content. After 3 rounds of wine, Chu Huayin looked at Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu immediately felt uneasy. What was to come had come. I heard that your cultivation isn't bad. How about we spar after drinking? All right. Lin Muyu made up her mind. Chu Huayin was able to rank among the top 200 imperial guards and become the emperor's personal bodyguard. He was definitely not a weakling. It would be good to use this opportunity to learn from him. Chu Huayin was a martial arts fanatic. He naturally wouldn't let a good opponent like Lin Muyu go. This was also the biggest reason he was able to become good friends with Feng Jixing. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.